On CTV, sex isn't what you're assigned at birth, it's what I have with your mom.
Okay.
Wow. Hey, I'm glad you're so funny, Xanderhal. No, I'm glad you see that urn sitting right there on my fireplace? My mom is inside that fucking urn. You see how bad your fucking joke was? You fucked it over, bro.
It's like one of those. It's like one of those dipping sticks.
For a rambunctious and I guess first ever, maybe possibly sexual Hippy Dippy roundtable with an OnlyFans discussion, huh?
Whoa!
Wow.
Oh, I got excited there for a second. Why would you bait and switch me like that, Dylan?
I'm sorry. It's OnlyFans time, of course.
Actually, you have to remember back to last year. We actually did have a pretty good conversation.
Did have a discussion before about OnlyFans on this show. You're right. Actually, I'm wrong.
What was that about?
I forget. Do you remember CTV?
You made me spill my butter pecan. What?
Don't worry about it. Welcome everybody to the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. It is a blessed day to be here, and I want to welcome everybody
kicks on this one.
Helping us produce an amazing show together. I'm going to go through some of the rules, and then we're going to allow people to introduce themselves. The first rule, of course, is not to do anything against terms of service. All of us want to keep our channels. The next rule is that when I am talking, I'm merely moderating. I'm not trying to give my own opinion. So please do not talk when I am talking. I am here purely to moderate. If there is a point in the show where you find it difficult to get into the conversation, use this as a last resort, though. You can raise your hand. I will write your name down, and I will make sure eventually it gets over to you, but please be patient. Other than that, I believe that is basically all of the rules, unless I'm forgetting anything. Am I forgetting anything? No? Well, oh yes, no slurs. No slurs of any sort. And we're not going to go over after people's immutable characteristics of any sort.
There we go.
So, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to go after everybody for weight, and even we'll include religion in there unless the discussion of religion comes up.
I'm a gamer. Can I get discriminated for that?
No.
Yeah,
no,
same.
Absolutely. That's not immutable.
We have to bully gamers.
That was a choice.
Yeah.
I was a gamer when I was born. I don't know what you're talking about.
I feel attacked.
I'm going to allow everybody to introduce themselves for every topic. You have a short period to intro and outro where nobody can interrupt you. And during these introductions, nobody can do the same. Do that as well. We're going to go around the room and allow people to introduce themselves. We're going to start in the top left-hand corner with American Nacho.
Hi, I'm American Nacho. I am on the right. I get called a centrist a lot by everybody. I'm more of a Eisenhower type Republican, a more traditional Republican. I play video games. I talk politics, and happy to be here. Thanks for having me, as always.
Happy to have you, American Nacho. Now we're going to move over to Counterpoints.
Yeah, hi, my name's Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I identify as center center right. Kind of similar to Nacho over here, progressive Republican. Teddy Roosevelt is my idol a little bit. And basically I do science fiction, philosophy, religion, politics, military, and law enforcement breakdowns. I need 75 more subscribers before I break 10,000, which has been a channel goal for a really long time. And then if you help me achieve that, even if you give me a hate subscription, then CTV over here and I are going to appear in a dad bod hot tub live stream for our inaugural Twitch live stream. So if you want to see him in a banana hammock and me in short shorts, then go ahead and subscribe.
Wow. Well, please unsubscribe from his YouTube channel immediately and as soon as possible. We're going to throw it over to CTV.
I thought you would like it.
Cringe.
CTV.
Look, I don't know what in the hell
Cringe
Dylan's talking
straight,
about, but it's
Dylan.
obvious why everybody came here tonight. They came here to see the most electrifying personality in Twitch politics today, right? That is your man, critically thinking veteran, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then obviously you haven't been paying attention, right? There's nobody else that can claim the title conservative main boss except me. There is nobody else, right, that jumps in and tells the truth exactly when it needs to be told in the way it needs to be told in order to grab the most attention of the crowd. I am the people's champion. It's about time people fucking recognize this fact. And I am so happy to be able to come here tonight. Dylan, take it away.
Thank you so much. You're an icon. Now I'm going to throw it over to a new guest, Fawn.
Hi. I'm Fawn. I am from New Zealand, and I'm very passionate about politics. I'm a socialist. and very, very left wing. But that's not usually kind of content that I cover on my channel. But I don't know. I've been branching out. I don't debate, so like, be nice. But I don't know. I'm branching out. I'm trying something new. This is fun.
Happy to have you here, and take at your own pace, any pace you want. And if you need to rely on like the hand raising thing, don't worry. I'll do my best to make sure that you got time to speak. I'll
Thank
throw it
you.
over to Lonerbox,
I
the
will,
box
A
of
pillow.
Loner, who will be on my podcast with Heamed Out next week. The Burned Out podcast. It's gonna be wonderful. It's gonna be glorious. Which we might be moving to Tuesday again since I had to cancel my New York trip. Sorry, Loner. Sorry you had to learn like this. Throwing it over to
Fair
you.
enough. Well, yeah, hi, I'm Lonerbox. I make YouTube videos about politics, history, and internet culture. And I also stream and do debates sometimes on Twitch. So.
Wonderful. I'm going to throw it now over to Shark3ozero, who just hit 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. That Joker makeup has pulled more weight on YouTube than I've ever dreamed it could have. Good work, Shark.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know why YouTube's pushing that video so dang hard, but you know, whatever. And we're here, and now I just get known for the racist furry foot guy in Joker makeup. So you know what? If that's gonna be my legacy, let's go. What's up? My name is Shark3ozero. That's the word shark, the number 3, the letter O, and the word 0. I make YouTube videos about politics and internet culture, and we have a good time here. Don't subscribe because I have too many already. I'm going to be donating them all to Dylan. Sorry, bud. But they're you know what? Don't worry about it, okay? There's a little secret there, but you won't have to worry about that until it's over. I'm happy to have you all here, and I'm happy to be here, and we'll see if we have fun.
Happy to have Shark over here, Shark Pog. We're going to now throw it over to... Okay. T-Jump.
Damn it, he's ruined all my fun. Yeah, I'm T-Jump. I do a YouTube channel usually about philosophy. I'm about to get fired from OnlyFans since they're going to remove my account. It sucks. So please sub to my channel because I'm going to need the income, the supplemental income.
Happy to have you here. I will say, the interesting thing about this whole thing, and this is the only thing I'll compliment say on this, does this mean in the future it will be actually not against terms of service to promote your OnlyFans on Twitch? This is an interesting idea. Throwing it over to Zan.
Hello, everyone. My name's Xanderhal. I'm a progressive content creator. Here's my cat, if that interests you at all. And yeah, I mean, I do YouTube, I do Twitch, I stream. Sometimes I do debates. I am the rightful winner of the last Hippy Dippy Rumble, but we won't talk about that. Won't bring that drama here. And yeah, I mean, I've been in YouTube jail for like the last 3... Oh, I just got server muted, didn't I? Oh, I saw
they
that.
can hear
I
you.
see that, Dylan.
They can
I'm
hear you.
watching
No,
your
no, no,
stream.
no.
I can
Keep
see
going,
it.
keep going.
I can see it. I see. All right.
No,
Okay.
no, no.
Okay. Yeah, I've been in YouTube jail for the last 3 months. I get off in 3 days because of a false strike. And yeah, I'm fucking hyped. It's gonna be fun. Let's have fun. I'm ready.
Happy to have you here, Zan. Okay, we're gonna go into the first topic, and we'll start off light. OnlyFans, everybody's favorite educational website, is making some changes, and apparently, it has made the decision, just like Tumblr, to get rid of its sexually explicit content. This has created a flurry of conversation online about why they're doing this, about if it's a smart move, about what's going to happen to all the sex workers who use the platform. So generally, I want to just know everybody's thoughts on the situation, if it was like maybe a good move or not, and of course, what's going to happen to all the sex workers and going forward. Just general thoughts on this conversation. We're starting off light tonight. We're going to throw it over first to American Nacho.
Cringe.
Yeah, so I don't really have any problem with this necessarily because this isn't an issue with OnlyFans. This is actually an issue with the payment services. So like Red Stripe and the other payment services that they use to process payments, like have decided not to promote that stuff. They're kind of like trying to cover all their bases. They're trying to be like super vanilla. So when they promote things like that, it causes people to not like invest in their venture capitals or whatever the hell it is, like Visa, MasterCard, and Amex and stuff like that are have like notoriously been like against processing their payments or doing payments on pornographic websites. So this is just kind of capitalism at its finest. If they want to continue to put sexually explicit content on their website, then they should just, start their own payment processor.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw it over to Connor.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I'm libertarian too. If consenting adults want to produce this kind of content, then that's on them. Obviously, I think there's some enforcement issues. I think there's some cultural issues that could use some pushback, but we can get into that in the open. Basically, OnlyFans gonna OnlyFans. Somebody's gonna capitalize on this. Whether that's like either Pornhub opening up like really emphasizing their community section, or if it's going to be, I think there was a competitor, like a number 2 competitor, that was basically like, hey, we'll literally pick up where you left off. So the market is ultimately going to be filled. Yeah, I'll leave it all for the general so we can get into the contentious stuff.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw it over to CTV.
Well, I find it to be, I don't know, extremely just fake as fuck, man. How are you going to build a platform, right, based around the idea of sexually explicit content, and then say once you get to a certain level that you're going to stop? Right?
Fucking based.
That is fucking bullshit, right? That is fucking
Based.
bullshit. Not only
Based
did you put the
CTV.
tip in, you went
Based
all the
CTV.
way in, right? All the way, balls fucking deep. And then you're like, well, now that we're done, we're just going to fucking pull out and run. Gee, sounds a lot like something else that's happened here recently. So, like, I don't know. It's a bunch of fucking bullshit. If you smell
You know what?
CTV is smoking.
You know what? I'm on the CTV train
once
now.
Again, trying himself to be the intellectual of the show. I'm gonna throw it over to Fawn.
Yeah, I feel like I heard a lot of conflicting statements over the last little while this has come out. Like I heard, because I know some OnlyFans content creators, and they were saying, oh, it was actually just like the intense like fetish stuff that was being like pulled back on, and they were emailing representatives of OnlyFans being like, is this true, is this happening? And they were like, no, we're not getting rid of adult content. But nope, it looks like it's all about money, funnily enough. Is this something about MasterCard wanting not wanting like sexually explicit content? I don't know. It's like, really, is MasterCard gonna pretend to be like the moral pillar of society right now? Like it is fucked up. It's fucked up. And it makes me really upset because, like, I don't know. It's just playing with people's livelihoods at this time. And I see a lot of people shit talking and being like, now they have to get a real job. And it's like, well, come on. We saw that from like someone who's a Twitch streamer being like, now all the OnlyFans girls are going to have to get a real job. It's like, oh, ironic. But yeah.
Okay. Also, for everyone at
Phase
home, I'm going to
away.
read the changes in the acceptable use policy.
Take them off.
for
You look like
everybody at home.
Spartacus. No.
The definition of what they mean by sexually explicit conduct means, and this is their words, not mine, actual or simulated sexual intercourse, including genital, oral genital, anal, or oral anal between
too windy
persons
in
of any
here.
sex. Actual or simulated masturbation, any exhibition of the anus or genital. Basically, it's sex. It's like anything sexual. Like you get the idea. They're pretty. There's people about like, well, how much is it gonna be? It's basically they're covering all the bases. We're gonna throw it over to Lonerbox.
Yeah, I actually maybe take issue with the idea that this is an example of the success of capitalism. This is like a shortcoming of capitalism, because as libertarians, I would like to think that people should be masters of their own destiny. And in this case, the
This is a bad
creators and
argument.
OnlyFans did nothing wrong. They haven't changed what they're doing. They did everything right, and they're going to suffer for it because their livelihoods were
This isn't the best
basically
argument.
hinging upon the whims of investors and payment processors. So it's unfortunate, and I do agree that there will be some alternative. But for some people, like a lot of people in America live, or even Europe live month to month, and that's going to be like a limbo that they absolutely didn't deserve. So one other reason to destigmatize sex work.
Okay, gotta throw it over to Shark3ozero.
This one, this topic is really just super unfortunate. So, due to the stigmatization of sex work, and also, unfortunately, a lot of big porn sites not doing any due diligence with cleaning up a lot of like really bad content on their sites. We remember Pornhub having to basically nuke like a lot of their content because there was a lot of like revenge porn. There's like a lot of CP there that they didn't really care for taking care of. It's made like the sex work industry really bad that a lot of people hinge on and depend on, even if it's not like survival sex work. If you just like to show booby, Godspeed, chief. The thing is, I really think that this move should anger anybody who cares about free speech. If you're someone who base your like online personality as someone who cares about free speech 24/7, and you get mad at YouTube and you get mad at Google and you get mad at the government for banning people who say like crazy shit online, or like banning like right wingers all the time, or like I really don't know what the difference between this is, if we're going to blame like MasterCard or Visa or PayPal or any other of these like payment platforms telling people how they can and can't use their money if it isn't explicitly illegal. I don't know what the difference between this is and an ISP telling you can't log on to Breitbart.
Send it over.
That's
to
a good
T-Jump.
argument.
Yeah, I agree with Shark with pretty much everything he said. I think it's a violation of free speech, and I think that big corporations being able to play with people's lives and their livelihoods in this way is really unfair. It's an unfair thing in society, and as long as they're not doing anything illegal and they're consenting adults doing whatever they want, then companies shouldn't have the opportunity to essentially ruin their lives and make them complete upend, possibly lose their houses, become homeless because of some value difference. It's no difference from Christians doing the same thing because of their Christian values and then destroying other people's lives simply because they don't adhere to Christianity. I think it's a travesty.
Send it over to Zan.
Yeah, it really fucking sucks. A few days ago, I was watching like Philip DeFranco, and they ended up talking about how OnlyFans is planning to expand out like a whole nother section of their brand and their website to something that's not NSFW for like just general content creators that don't do sex work. And I think that was probably one of the first signs that the website and that brand was going to start moving in a more anti-sex work direction, or at least a less explicit direction. It really does suck because I know quite a few sex workers, and I know they are not happy about this. It is pretty fucked. If you've ever tried to like make an OnlyFans and make money on there or spend money on there, you'll know you can't use stuff like PayPal or a ton of different money processing methods because they don't want to work with any websites that promote or host sex work. And yeah, it just sucks. Like there's really not much else to say about it. If anyone here wanted to argue it was a good thing, we could, but there's not much to say about it other than this is a stupid decision, and it's being driven by sort of a motivation to become more brand friendly to payment processors.
Sorry, I just realized my Discord wasn't muted. That was all me. I apologize profusely for the chip sounds. Okay. So it seems like there's not a ton of disagreement here, but I'm going to give it up to the crowd to discuss this. Might be a short topic. Just go on.
No, I just think it's extremely funny from the start, right? I think it's really funny from the fucking start, right? When we got a whole bunch of people that would probably be representing the left, right? All of a sudden it's a First Amendment issue, but when it comes to Facebook or Twitter, they ain't saying shit. They ain't saying shit, right? So what the fuck is that about?
So piggyback. Can I back up what CTV said real quick? This is exactly what I was gonna say too. Like I didn't hear a peep out of anybody whenever everything was getting canceled. Whenever right wingers were getting canceled, it was like go make your own social media platform or adhere to the rules. And now whenever this is getting canceled, it's like, oh, we need to change everything like now.
So this isn't even close to comparable. This isn't even close to comparable. There's a difference between social media websites deciding that they want to ban hate speech or, hey, anything from child pornography to hate speech on their like general open social media platform like Twitter, for example, and a website that's built in its entire identity on sex work just out of nowhere with no warning, changing their entire TOS. Like I think there is a pretty big difference there. A website changing the entire thing it's about out of nowhere, giving no warning to its creators, is different than Twitter using,
they
like,
just-
actually acting on their
Also,
TOS they've had for a long time.
Weren't
I
they just like
believe
Patreon
that
at the beginning?
I believe that the
It's always
comment,
been for that.
yeah.
Well,
I believe
Fawn's
that
talking.
thank you. I believe that the comment was, if you care about freedom of speech, you should care about this. Not that we need to change everything. That this is a huge violation, and this means that everything is different now.
Okay, Nacho and CTV already articulated it, but it was just so weird seeing the inversion in logic when it applies, because basically every single right winger for the past 2 years, whenever anybody has gotten banned off of a social media website, it's been they're a private company. If you don't like the terms of service, if you don't like it, create your own social media. If you don't like your payment processor, I'm listening. Sure, go ahead.
That.
How?
Also, Twitter and OnlyFans and the way they operate are very, very different. And you could replace Twitter with anything: YouTube, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. OnlyFans specifically, in its payment method, for the most part, is you create content and it's locked behind a paywall. And so you need to motivate people to want to pay to get to your content. I guess you could have like a free account and just have people pay for stuff, but
You can't compare
that's usually
Twitter
how
to
it works.
anything else, right?
Stop stepping on my dick. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So the reason why I don't think
Get out.
it's comparable, the reason why I don't think it's comparable is because you've got all these creators that are putting out their content and putting it behind a paywall. And now not only are you harming the consumer who spent money on many of those videos that I imagine are going to have to be taken down now that the TOS is going to be updating out of nowhere. But on top of that, these creators have to now find a way to keep people paying through a paywall to see content that they could find something that they're more likely to be looking for, full-on porn on other websites. It's not so much people being banned. Like, if people were being banned from OnlyFans for breaking TOS once this all changes, I'm not going to complain about that as much. My main issue is with them changing the TOS to a completely, on a website that built itself on this out of nowhere.
So you keep
fucking
saying
over
that they
its
built
creators.
themselves on this, but I don't think that they did. Sorry,
Okay,
Connor.
hold on.
They did.
Real
It's
quick.
fine.
I'm
They
pretty
did.
sure they just were like,
Damn it,
this is
Counterpoint
how you
was
can get
waiting
access.
patiently.
I know.
Okay,
real quick.
We'll
Shut
go
up, Nacho.
Wait, we'll go. Wait. We'll go Nacho, Connor, then we'll go to CTV, and then we'll go to Loner, because Loner just raised his hand.
So everybody keeps saying this, but I'm pretty sure that whenever OnlyFans started, it was basically like Snapchat in a way. Like, it wasn't intended to be pornographic. It just turned into that. It was like, you can get access to your favorite celebrities, your favorite people, whatever, da-da-da-da-da. You can get extra content that you don't normally get from their, channel or whatever.
Yeah, but did anyone here know or care what OnlyFans was until it was the booba site?
Thank you.
Okay, well, you can't just change what the site was originally when it started.
When we say built
Just
on,
because that's what it. Well, just
that
because that's
means
what.
that's what made
okay,
it
well,
famous.
So that's what got it traction, sure, but like that's not what the company's like. When they sat down in the fucking meeting to like say like what this is the product we're gonna create for everybody, they weren't like, let's sell people a bunch of porn. Like,
Well, they kind of did though. Like they at
ended
some
up doing
point they
that,
had
yeah,
to have
but-
realized. Yeah, at some point that when the website started to get traction, around the time when people started doing sex work on there, they probably realized that okay, this is what we're doing. That's why they allowed this content on their site for as long as they did, and why they had to jump over so many hoops in order to monetize themselves. Like, don't you need like what I think like Cash App might be the only thing that works. I think some debit cards might work. It's really, they've jumped through a lot of hoops to keep that site monetized.
Okay, I'm gonna throw this over to Connor next. Then it's gonna be CTV Loner. Of course, if people want to respond to them, they still can. Connor.
Okay. I'm gonna try to articulate this in its entirety. Okay. I don't think that anything you've said in the past 5 minutes has changed the arguments that right wingers have consistently heard for the past 2 years. Okay. And to summarize those arguments, it's a private platform. Nothing you said changes that perspective. They can do
Connor.
what they want. No, motherfucker.
All right, go ahead,
Holy
finish.
shit.
Go ahead.
All right.
Shut
It's
up,
a
Bill, you
private
can't.
platform. Hi, CTV. Leave me the fuck alone. All
I
right,
got your
so-
back, bro.
All right, thank you. It's a private platform. They can do what they want. They can change the TOS. If the people don't like it, they can go someplace else. If the people don't like it, they can create their own platform. Nothing. I understand the descriptions and the history lesson, but nothing that anybody has said for the past 5 minutes have changed these fucking arguments. And the reason why it feels particularly ironic on this side of the fucking aisle is basically a bunch of people were telling right wingers, "Oh, boo fucking who, can't stop saying slurs, get fucked, dumb fuck." Whereas now conservatives, not me, because I'm more libertarian, but conservatives can say, "Boo fucking who, your favorite fucking e-thought website decided they didn't want to be in porn anymore. Go do something else." So it's just it's all the inverted arguments.
Yeah, so the difference between what the right does when they argue about people getting banned from Twitter and what the left is doing now is when Trump got banned from Twitter or when right-wingers get banned from Twitter, they try to actually make it illegal for that to happen. They tried to make it so that it was illegal for Twitter to ban Trump. They tried to put the law in the way of that. All the left is doing right now is posting memes and making fun of OnlyFans, saying they're going to fail and saying it was a cunt move. No one's arguing that OnlyFans should be penalized for this. No one is arguing that this is against the law. They're only saying it's stupid. We're just making fun of it. The right tries to go way further on that, okay?
Okay, we can agree on this, but just then like couching it in free speech, which typically gets associated with the First Amendment, was just a little weird. But I'll agree to that.
I never defend the banning of conservatives with the free speech argument. I usually make the argument that we want TOS on these sites. We don't want sites to be overrun with racism and homophobia. We don't want Twitter to be loaded with child porn and gore and shit like that. You need a TOS and you need to be somewhat applied. Otherwise, these sites are going to be unusable.
We got to move on to CTV and then Lonerbox.
Yeah, but the reality is here when it comes to Twitter is that Twitter is unique in and to itself, right? There is no other fucking platform that requires you to kind of get the feel for how to communicate, right? That's been a fucking learning curve for me for the last fucking, 8-9 months being on fucking Twitter, right? Like if I'm trying to have my own fucking conversation, I got to initiate a quote tweet, right? And then that way it fucking, I can put something there and then like people go below it. I'm 38 fucking years old, served 9 years in the fucking Navy on Ohio class submarines. Yeah, I guess, that would make me definitely a qualified boomer to be sure. Now, moving on from there, right? Like everything that I'm hearing tonight is just like people making up excuses for bad behavior in the past. And then you want to say, oh, well, nobody's trying to pass any laws or try to get the law. But it's like in reality, what should be happening is the left should be uniting with the right at this fucking moment instead of just passing it off. It's like, well, we're not doing nothing over it. Of course, because you're fucking lazy, right? If it's not something that concerns you specifically, you won't get your fucking ass up off the couch to do shit. Right?
CTV, what do you suggest we do? Abolish TOS?
Wait, everybody calm down, okay? We need to at least let CTV finish his point before we respond. CTV?
The only reason why we're having this conversation tonight is because it has to do with sex. If it was just speech, you wouldn't get your ass up off the couch. But because it has something to do with sex, at least you're willing to make a fucking meme about it, right? So beyond that, like, how is it that anybody should be able to depend on the left when it comes to getting anything done if it's not in their own fucking self-interest?
Yeah, so this, what would you propose that we do? Oh yeah, go ahead, Lonerbox. Yeah, go ahead.
Just from one freedom lover with pretty lights to another CTV counterpoints. I didn't make the free speech argument, but I'll give you one that probably isn't inconsistent. So I don't buy the argument that private companies can do what they want. A private company isn't allowed to violate human rights in lots of ways. That's a stupid argument. So the only circumstances under which I personally support people getting banned from Twitter is if they are causing a sufficient threshold of harm. People on OnlyFans, as far as I know, are not causing harm with their content. And not to mention, the consumers are given a much more higher degree of selectivity with their content. If someone on Twitter posts a death threat to you, you're going to know it's there. And if people defame you and target you for harassment, you can't just choose not to see it. So I can agree that plenty of people got banned from Twitter who didn't deserve it, but that position isn't inconsistent. One thing causes harm, the other does not.
I don't think that's fair. I think their point actually stands. Like, for example, what's his name? Steven Crowder, Alex Jones, those guys, when the people are checking out their videos, they're voluntarily doing so. They're not forced to check out Alex Jones's video. And
but
so
then I could, sorry, go on.
So when they're banned and you can't see the people who are paid them, who subscribe to their channel and give them money voluntarily to see their content, are banned from seeing their content. It seems to be an accurate analogy to what's going on with OnlyFans. So their points do stand. Like all of the arguments that are made by the Republicans also apply here. That yeah, these are private companies. They have the right to do what they want in the same way. And the difference is that the left is far less compassionate because they see the right as a bunch of assholes, and so they don't really care what happens to them.
Yeah, so
Based.
I think the fact that you brought up Alex Jones and Steven Crowder was maybe just a very fortunate twist of fate in my favor, because the victims of the Sandy Hook shooting couldn't choose to not get harassed by Alex Jones's followers based on the content Alex Jones was producing. Carlos Maza couldn't choose not to get harassed by the countless number of homophobes who targeted Steven Crowder as a result of them watching Steven Crowder's content. I just thought that was kind
Oh,
of
wait,
funny.
you're gonna hold?
Yeah,
the
sure,
one
that was-
person
that was a
who-
shitty
Stop for a second.
example.
Loner, you meant targeting Maza, not Crowder, because you said they targeted Crowder.
Oh yeah, no, Crowder, poor crowd. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
Maza,
okay, got
sorry.
it.
Yeah.
Connor, you had your hand raised, so I want to throw it to you.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted. There were two things that I found interesting. One, we obviously define harm completely differently. Harm is very subjective. Different people have different definitions of harm. If you were from like a more social conservative, again, I lean more libertarian. But if you're more social conservative, you would inarguably, you would basically argue that sex work itself causes harm. People consuming sex work causes harm, all this kind of stuff. And then also on top of that, the reason why somebody was talking about how OnlyFans didn't start out as a porn website, but became a porn website because it was popular. Like I think 70 to 80% of the internet is porn. But if my goal as the boss, the owner of whatever, of OnlyFans, was to create like a Patreon alternative for like artists and for people who want to do independent projects and movies and films and all that kind of stuff, and I can't get away from my company's reputation for pornography, then this is obviously a move. Like if that's the route that they're kind of going. I haven't checked out what they've said they're trying to move. I just assumed it was going to become a softcore site after this point. But that's 2 points that I would make, is that we define harm subjectively, meaning that they can do this. And number two, basically the vision of the original creator does matter if they still own the company.
So I think with the subjectivity of harm, I completely agree. That's why people getting banned on Twitter, as far as free speech goes, is kind of always going to happen, because there are always some groups who feel like their free speech and their rights are being violated by the existence of someone else. So people who, Gamergate types who like dogpiling feminists and, well, just women in general who talk about video games, for example, like if they get their freedom of speech, then lots of women aren't going to want to go on that platform. And that's why you had YouTube 2016, etc. If you have a platform that allows freedom of speech to race realists, then a lot of black people aren't going to want to go there. So you have, like, there's no such thing as absolute free speech, and like harm is subjective. Yeah. And that's why it's an argument. You have to choose a side.
So I feel like we're getting too lost in the sauce and like trying to say who's hypocritical and who isn't. The thing going on here is, and I think just from a practical perspective, it is ridiculous for the right to get as upset as they do over people getting banned for breaking TOS against racism or transphobia or whatever on these platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And then try to call out and then try to
have a problem making a white supremacist joke or a fucking anti-Semitic joke, and they fucking get away with it. But to let that shit happen on a conservative platform, right? And you'll see that fucking Twitch streamer banned real fucking quick. Right?
Well, on conservative platforms, it's just spammed with child porn. You've seen what happened every time the right try to make those, you know? They say no rules, and then it's filled with gore and child porn the next day. I mean, there's not, yeah.
On the right side, right? The conservative side, we would put that on
what was the name of that conservative Twitter they tried to make that had to get taken off the App Store because it was getting flooded with all sorts of criminal shit?
Wait. Okay, wait. Stop. Can we stop for a moment? Okay. So, I'm going to pull out an oldie. So, this is a magic trick. Even though two people talking at the same time, you don't get double the information. You actually get none of the information. So we're going to have to actually... It's been a while since someone laughed at that, so I appreciate that one. So we're going to actually... we're going to start with... okay, so who was talking? I actually couldn't hear it. I didn't know. Okay, it was Zan and CTV. I could definitely recognize CTV's voice. So we're going to have Zan finish whatever point he was trying to make, and then go over to CTV.
Yeah, so there's no point in calling out hypocrisy on this. When the left argues in favor of TOS, we argue in favor of it for the same reason that we would argue in favor of you don't have the freedom to go shit on the street or in the middle of a restaurant. Because if we allowed people to do that, there would be no reason to go to a restaurant. All these businesses would die. You wouldn't be able to go out in public. The world would be shit. Same thing goes for Twitter. You don't want Nazis and pedophiles to be able to post whatever the fuck they want. You want there to be a TOS. When the left makes fun of OnlyFans for heavily marketing themselves for a very long time, at least a few years, as being a haven for sex workers to create safely pay-locked content to build their lives on. I saw an ad on Twitter for OnlyFans the other day that said it was something about like move out and get yourself a nicer house, join OnlyFans and start making tons of money. When they were like just a week ago advertising for women to come, create careers on there, and then they're just switching their entire thing with no warning out of nowhere. Oh, just October. We're no more pornographic content in October. That's worth making fun of. I don't think that's even close to comparable to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube having a TOS.
Okay, CTV?
The fact of the matter is, right, unless it's in the left's interest, they don't fucking bother, right? So in this specific interest, when it comes to sex, right, it's still in the right's interest to point out the hypocrisy when it comes to freedom of speech. And while you might say, oh, well, I'll help point it out, what the fuck are you going to do about it? Nothing, because it doesn't get away from your fucking party line. Right? And that's all you actually give a fuck about, right? You don't give a fuck about free speech. You don't give a fuck about individuality. And you definitely don't give a fuck about any of the people that were on the platform to begin with, right? Or the ones that actually got it to where it was at, potentially losing their livelihood as a result of it. You don't actually give a fuck. That's why you're sitting over there memeing about it. You're like, oh, they should just go get a real fucking job. What makes you think it's not a real fucking job, right? That's where we're sitting at with it, right? Because last time I checked, the word blowjob had the fucking word in it. You know why? Because you got to put some work into it to make it fucking work, right? So
I have no.
Why in the fuck we got anybody on the left arguing?
I don't understand what he's arguing right now.
All we should be seen doing is uniting under no other fucking issue than this fucking issue.
Unite for blowjobs. Let's go.
If we want to unite over this, I'm fine with that. But I'm just really curious. Wait, CTV, do you think it's bad if someone's banned from Twitter for racism?
I want to hear Fawn.
Wait, okay. I am okay. Well,
all right, Fawn should go.
Wait for the moderator.
Okay, Fawn, you can take my job. You respond. Then we'll go to Zan. Then we'll go to Connor.
No, I think I would agree that I think it was really good when we were all giving our intros. Every single person was like, this sucks. This sucks for the content creators on OnlyFans losing their livelihood. That is super fucked up. And I think that is a really good thing that we can actually unite over instead of argue about. So I appreciate that.
Okay, we're now going to
the reason.
Wait.
Sorry.
Shark, were you trying to say something? I was saying I was going to throw it in this direction, but Shark hasn't said anything yet, so I want to make sure Shark.
Hey, what's going on? It's me. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here still. Now, so I guess I started the whole free speech thing. The reason why the reason why I framed it like that is to just like reach out to people. You argue towards people for what they appreciate and what they like. So obviously, for like, if I'm going to talk to any person who's like more further right and they base their personality on being super free speech, obviously I'd point out that would be a free speech issue. I don't have to agree with them specifically to appeal to them in that way. But also I do still think like I don't think it's inconsistent. I don't know like who that you were arguing with or what you've seen or what blue check marks have given anybody any like post-traumatic stress from like clowning on you for being right winger or something. I don't think that Twitter or YouTube or anyone should just be banning people because they're just specifically right wing. The same way I don't think that they should be banning people just specifically because they do sex work. I don't think that should happen. Now I do think that these platforms should ban things like CP, and I do think that they should ban things like race realism and things along those lines. Now, these are the extreme parts of it, and there's like a very reasonable argument to be made for why I think regular righties and I think sex work should both be things that should be left alone. You can make an argument for why anything causes harm in any way. Breathing probably causes harm. There are very few people who are going to say that we should all stop breathing because it causes less harm. I think that's ridiculous.
The reason I would, yeah, when I said harm earlier, I meant like a specific threshold of harm. Obviously, that's arbitrary.
No, yeah,
Right?
I completely agree with you.
The reason I personally don't take it too seriously when right-wingers complain about free speech, because every fucking time I see a string of headlines from all the papers or whatever about some poor person who was taken off Twitter because they misgendered someone once, just fleetingly. You look at the article and like third paragraph down, they actually were collecting like dead name info and publishing it and leading a targeted harassment and defamation campaign to like multiple people. And it's just because you guys are fucking liars about free speech issues. Like that's why. Sorry.
Yeah, there's some things that those people can do some like pretty crazy stuff, and it's just like, oh, they said they were mean to a trans person once. They called them stupid, and then they got banned. No, that's not. It's very rarely anything like that.
Right, so your entire argument here is based off of individuals and not an actual fucking principle, which I'm not surprised about, since I haven't found very many principles when it comes to other than selling their own self-interest on the fucking left.
So what you're advocating for
You
aren't
won.
principles here. You're advocating for
Now,
just
it's
a broad, non-nuanced
Okay,
view
okay.
of how these things should be done.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but nuance is important.
Wait.
You have to consider
Wait.
different
Wait,
things.
Yep. I heard a lot of people talking at once, so I'm gonna ask CTV to finish his brilliant comments, because
I need
we're trying to
weed
listen
so bad.
what he smoked, right? So finish, and then we're gonna go over to Zan, and then Connor. Then we're probably gonna wrap the topic up. Probably looking towards doing that because, I think we get where the line's drawn.
Yeah, so in reality, you're not standing on principle. If it doesn't serve your own self-interest, you won't get off the fucking couch. That's what it seems like. Now, obviously, since you want to point to individuals, I can definitely point to individuals on the left that are getting their ass up off the couch. But since we're speaking in generalities, right, the left generally doesn't get its fucking ass up off the chair, nor does it have the principled standing, right, to do a fucking thing. And that's why it's very, very hard for me as a 38-year-old man living down here in Florida to be able to depend on the left for a fucking thing, right? Just can't fucking happen. So the only thing that I can do is sit here and deal with the other fucking quagmire that is the other fucking political party, right, to try to get any type of shit done. So thanks a lot for not being there.
Thanks, Obama.
I love you, my Floridian brother. I am also from Florida.
Flow
I'll give you
grown,
a principle
am I
if you want,
right?
CTV.
Flow grown.
I definitely didn't say born and raised. I was born and raised in the great state of North Carolina.
Oh,
you
well, that's
meant.
much more cringe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Now we're gonna throw it over to Connor points.
Yeah, hopefully I can give Xander some reconciliation, but maybe some fuel as well. So the reason why I wanted to jump in for the past few minutes is because I don't think y'all agree. CTV, Shark3ozero, I actually appreciate you, your arguments, because you did something called appealing to your opponent's motivated reasoning. It's something that I argue for all the time. It's something that a guy named Drew Welty brought to my attention, which is basically you reframe your perspectives in the arguments and motivations of your opponent. So like beautifully done. Unfortunately for you, CTV and I do not agree on everything. And also, I don't think that y'all actually agreed on anything, because basically what CTV is arguing is that TOS should be much more liberal, much more open. The political Overton window should be much wider than most lefties or progressives or liberals are comfortable with. And so that's kind of where it's at. So realistically, I was really just coming at you with appeals to hypocrisy, but not just appeals to hypocrisy, just consistency. Because the truth is, if the right fucking bitches about freedom of speech and TOS and all this kind of stuff, and all the arguments appeal to like capitalistic, legalistic rights of corporations to decide their own internal policies, then you don't really have an argument here. You can say that it's fucked up. You can say that they betrayed their original base. You can say that sex work is work. And I mean, as we established, the strongest point for the past hour has been that a blowjob is work. Okay. That's been the strongest point for the past fucking hour.
And that was made by CTV.
And that was made by CTV. Again, coming in with the fucking steel chair. So I'll leave it there, but I don't think we're going to agree.
Yeah, do you mind if I jump in really quick?
Sure, yeah. That's fine.
Okay, so, all right. So I don't think you'll ever see anybody on the left who has any relevance or is even worth consideration who is going to advocate for random conservatives being banned for no reason whatsoever. Usually what happens is either TOS is abused. It's very easy to abuse reporting systems on Twitter and YouTube. That happens. I got false striked. I'm 3 days away from being out of YouTube jail. If Connor Points got banned from Twitch tomorrow, I would stir tons of shit on Twitter because I know he's not breaking TOS. He's not advocating for white nationalism. He's not advocating for transphobia. He's not breaking TOS. But if, say, I don't know, let's say Alex Jones made a Twitch tomorrow and started talking about how the lizards are running everything. Pizzagate is real. If that happened tomorrow, then I'd probably advocate for him to get banned because he's actually breaking TOS. If you want to take issue with the way that things are run right now, you shouldn't take issue with the existence of TOS and the things that are banned on there. You should take issue with how it is enforced, how everything is run by bots, and how everything is being done in a way that has there is unironically no accountability for these sites. If they ban someone who didn't actually break TOS. Big Animation Channel recently got completely taken off of YouTube because YouTube's bot algorithm thought that animated women in this big animator's videos was sexual content. They were wearing tank tops and like jeans in the videos, these animated things that were made. Whole channel got taken down. It got dealt with, but had that channel been smaller, they'd be gone. They'd be completely gone, and we'd have no idea why.
Did you call the animated women things?
No, I don't think so, actually.
Okay, just checking. Okay, so we any more done on this topic? Okay, we're gonna wrap it up then.
I've got something, Dylan.
Okay, one last thing, and then we'll wrap it up.
Just for the sake of, I don't know, something like principle or constituency. Yeah, fucking.
Well,
if you want like
a minute
something
ago, that had been a whole 6 years since Alex Jones had been fucking banned from Twitter between that and the Sandy Hook incident, right? Why? Jesus, just go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I think pretty much everyone here agrees that as far as free speech goes, there is a threshold somewhere. That's fine. And then, I think most people as well probably know that, Trump's, for example, getting banned from Twitter. I think most people know that wasn't because he had just crossed some threshold set by some impartial ethics group or something. It was, and whilst keeping Taliban or ISIS people up there. I think we know that. So I don't know, maybe I've never actually spoken about this before, but I wonder if maybe we could treat platforms the way we do mainstream media, and that I don't think really private companies should be allowed to just enforce the TOS in the way they do. I think would it not be a better idea, because if a platform gets big enough that you can treat it a bit more like a commons and cede that role of TOS to an independent committee like they do with Ofcom in mainstream media.
Well, that's probably where you need to learn how the American system is set up, because in reality, most of the mainstream media is governed by the FCC, right? Because they're appearing on cable, right? So before you
I'm
start
not saying,
talking
hey,
about
no.
scope
Wait.
of the things that are involved.
I'm not saying exactly the same thing. I'm just talking about a hypothetical independent committee or independent organization body with different standards from the FCC or Ofcom.
So your point here
I'm just
was
making an analogy.
Just a philosophical thing that doesn't actually exist. Got it.
Just a suggestion, yeah. Do you have an imagination?
That would be cool, but that is entirely going to have to be an imaginary world. There's a reason why all these platforms, as much as it sucks and as little accountability as they have, and as badly and easy to exploit as it is, mostly use bots and algorithms to determine, to look over things that are reported or to ban content creators. And it's because so much content is pumped out onto these platforms on a daily basis that it would be impossible for any organization or group of people to manually review all of this shit.
Yeah,
I didn't say manually review, though. I just mean a TOS system that
because
isn't.
If the FCC is doing it, right, that's who would have to do it here in the United States, right? The FCC. So now you're going to expand the government to how many fucking millions of employees? I mean, Jesus, tax
Well,
revenue, like the tax dollars necessary to be able to do that kind of plan is just fucking silly, which is why bots fucking do it, and they do it from the corporations. Because in reality, the government under the First Amendment can't do this fucking job. Like, how much do you read the fucking Constitution and understand how these things are set up? First fucking Amendment, Congress shall pass no law with regard to freedom of speech, which means that they can't handle this fucking issue.
the terms of service on a
Jesus.
platform isn't a law.
I'm feeling left out because I'm a New Zealander. So can we just not talk about the Constitution?
Okay, we're gonna go. We're
I
gonna go
love
to
that I
wrap
just
up
got
now.
screamed at for not knowing your Constitution. Fucking hell.
We gotta start in the top
Have you
left-hand
read Magna
corner.
Carta?
We're gonna start in the top left-hand corner for wrap up with American Nacho.
Yeah, so I'm all in on the unifying under blowjobs. But yeah, no, seriously though, this is something that I think a lot of the people on the right were kind of like screaming from the rooftops about, and everybody was like, "Yeah, you guys are fucking crazy," and it's
to
just
take these
scary to
glasses
see
off.
that some of these people have such a big pull as far as when it comes to like freedom of speech, as far as it comes to like what we can and can't say, and to see people like especially the biggest banks in the world silencing what they view as like immoral culture or whatever. I don't know, it's maybe something we should keep an eye on, and like CTV and I think Connor both said it's something that the left and the right could probably unite on, so that's it.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw over to Connor.
Nah, fuck that. Listen, they're a private corporation. They can decide what they want to do. They can change their terms of service when they feel like it. Die mad. And I'm fucking memeing here, okay? Listen, I'm definitely way more libertarian than a lot of fucking people. So sex work doesn't bother me. I have some cultural pushes against it. I have some pretty milquetoast criticisms about it. But man, like just hearing these arguments like inverted, I still don't think that I've really heard like an addressing to those arguments, which is why it feels kind of disingenuous or hypocritical. I don't care. Ultimately, I don't care because basically I do want a TOS. I do want private companies to be able to decide what they do with their revenue and what they do with their businesses. So I'm actually bought on the left-wing arguments when they cut right, but because I'm consistent, I still buy into those arguments when they cut left. So sorry.
Okay, throw it over to CTV.
Well, I think we all kind of agreed to begin with. I pretty much smashed the left on this entire issue, right? Any way, shape, form, or fashion, they tried to work their way out of it. The only one that I felt like had any good points was Fawn. So, Fawn, I appreciate your participation as far. The rest of the lefties, though, right? Like, y'all got to come with some shit, man. Y'all don't even seem like y'all know the Constitution. Come on, man. Freedom of speech. Like, whenever you're talking about that, it obviously involves the American Constitution from the start, right? So, I'm keeping the energy up. Chat, we're all having a good fucking time over here. We're drinking some butter pecan moonshine, right? Trying to keep it live for you. CTV out.
I'm sorry, I'm new to the Constitution, so like I'm
Why are
not
you
used to this
fucking
kind of.
talking right now, Lonerbox? This
Okay.
ain't
I
your
don't-
fucking time to talk. Shut the fuck up.
It
If
is.
I wanna-
CTV's right. CTV is right. It is not
Right,
your
if
time
I
to
want
talk,
to have a
Loner.
dramatic pause, throw the fucking thing, nobody talks, bring it back, I can fucking do that. You know why?
We can't always be as smart as you.
can't
Because
so-
get
that's
it
how the
unstuck.
fucking rules work. Jesus Christ. It's like you don't read rules, you don't read the Constitution. What the fuck? Dylan, take it
Okay,
away.
we're gonna throw it over to Fawn.
Thanks, bestie. I think I'm just very impressed to hear that, like initially, like about the actual point of the OnlyFans putting sex workers out of work, and losing livelihood, which like everyone was like, yeah, that sucks, and I was just very impressed to hear that and not hear any shitty takes on sex work. And I saw someone in chat say that we should have a blowjob flag that we can all unite under, and I think that is the first step to peace, to world peace, honestly.
I will model for that.
CTV, you gotta follow the rules. Gotta throw it over to Lonerbox.
Yeah, from one anti-imperialist to another. Sorry for not reading the Constitution in Britain, but you can educate. I don't know. Does the First Amendment apply to social media companies? Does
Loner,
it cover social media
you
platforms?
can't answer the question. It's ending statements.
Okay, it's a rhetorical question because I know
We
it
can
doesn't.
answer it in the next segment, I guess, and during the intro.
That's fine.
What you asking me?
It doesn't matter. You can't answer it right now. Anyway, we're throwing it over to Shark.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think it's a bad thing that this happened. I don't think that. I mean, we could just like gesture. For me, I think we could just gesture at like imagine hypocrisy like all day. But for me, I didn't make any arguments that pertain to some like capitalistic, really like standard. I think for me, I think that the big difference is just that
Got it.
you could have some blanket statements about free speech, and then you could have some more standards. I think people on the left typically just have higher standards when it comes to what TOS should and shouldn't have, and how companies should and shouldn't act. I don't think there's anything wrong with having standards personally, and I think that this doesn't meet that bar.
Okay, we're gonna throw it over to T-Jump.
Yeah, so I totally agree with counterpoints in CTV in this one. I think that there's a big parallel between the left and the right's usage of the arguments here, in that if they are arguing for topics that they believe in or people who they support, then they obviously think these arguments work. But when it goes towards the other side of the issue, they completely disagree, and it is kind of hypocritical. I think that companies shouldn't have entirely the right to just end anyone they want, if it's a career, if they have a livelihood, if their life depends on it. I don't think companies should just have the de
Thank you,
facto right
James
to
Moore.
end that. And
We'll
there
read
should
that
be
at
a
the end of
much
this.
more stringent litigation process before they can just demolish a YouTube channel or an OnlyFans channel, which is your source of income. I think if you do have a source of income, you should have a right to defend your source of income to some degree, and the companies shouldn't have the right to take it away whenever they so feel like it.
Okay, and Zan.
Yeah, it sucks. I like Booba. I'm sad that they're making it so that the Booba is less prosperous on OnlyFans. I know there's other websites that sex workers will probably move to that will fill that that desire, right? I mean, that is how markets typically work. If some desire isn't being met, something else will come along and take its place. But it does suck. Mostly, I would say, because a lot of people are pretty established on OnlyFans, and that's kind of where they're at. Like, if you get banned off of YouTube tomorrow, you can still move to Twitch and do pretty well. But if you built your audience on YouTube, you're kind of screwed. So it's a shitty situation, but I don't think it's a free speech issue at all.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next topic, which is even lighter than this: Afghanistan. Afghanistan, the United States is withdrawing after a 20-year mission under Joe Biden finishing Trump's agreement to withdraw from the country after a small extension from May to August. Shortly after American troops started to pull out and stopping movement, recently the Taliban government, the ANA government, the Afghan government collapsed, and the Taliban took over most of the country. Besides some resistance in the Punjab Valley that is expanding and protests in the capital, the Taliban seems to have complete control of the country. So the question is, what are your thoughts on the Afghanistan withdrawal as a concept, and what are your thoughts on Biden or the previous administration's handling of this withdrawal? We're gonna
Wait,
start
1 second, Dylan. 1 second, Dylan. I just have one question.
What's that?
Did you get nearly as much shit as I did for talking about this back in like April?
This sounds like a DM conversation.
Wait, no, I'm actually willing to answer this. The thing is, every single thing I ended up saying about what could go wrong with a withdrawal and how we need to make sure it went orderly, I feel like ended up being accurate, or like why we need to do this in a different fashion. Anyway, Xander, you know what I mean. Anyway, nobody else needs to know, but anyway, we'll throw it straight over to Nacho.
Yeah, so the pulling out, the withdrawal is like a concept. Yeah, I think was a good idea to some degree. I think it just sucks overall, because this is where my more like centrist side is going to come out, because for sure this is like one of the rare cases where it seems like we had like a really good plan. We put a lot of effort into like doing a lot of research. Like I've listened to so many lectures on like Afghanistan that were like from like the 2000s up through, from today too. And it was like all of the meetings where they come together and they talk about like what the plans were. It was like the one time where we had a really good fucking plan and the U.S. didn't want to like back it. And this was like Democrats and Republicans. So it seemed like there was a good plan to rebuild Afghanistan or to take it in the right direction. And the one time we actually took the time to fucking research and do all of our, like, put in the most effort into coming up with a plan, coming up with a structure, coming up with an organized way to like do this, then that was the one time they kind of like half-assed it and were like, yeah, whatever. Like, we'll just leave the military there and we'll just shoot Talibans. So, and this is kind of the result. It's like the withdrawal, I guess, at this point after 20 years is a good thing, but the way it was executed was kind of shit. So that's it.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Connor.
Yeah. So basically, I'm of two minds on this. We could have stayed for a century and left 10,000 troops and probably paid, I don't know, 20 billion, 40 billion a year and actually succeeded. But nation building is a multi-generational project, and we would be talking about like we're still in Korea, we're still in Germany, we're still in Japan, we're still in places that in order to enforce our sphere of influence. And also, we weren't just involved in the security apparatus, we were involved in other aspects of nation building in those countries. So we would have had to go all the way balls to the wall, or we would have had to do what we did, which was basically pull out. I hope the lesson for next time that some asshole explodes buildings, kills 3,000 people, and does $1 billion worth of damage is that we just hunt down that one motherfucker, put 2 in his head, and then call it a day. We didn't need to spend 20 years there. We didn't need to spend $50 billion a year. We didn't need to do any of that shit. So all the way in, all the way out, those are the two options, and we'll get into it in the general.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to CTV.
Well, the reality here is that after September 11th, we wanted somebody's fucking head. I remember, right? I graduated boot camp September 13th, 2001. As a matter of fact, whenever September 11th happened on the fucking day, I remember my RDCs coming into the recruit division fucking barracks, right, and telling us that there were 2 planes that hit the World Trade Centers, that we were potentially going to war. You know what I said to begin with? Bull fucking shit. I didn't believe it. You know why? Because I've been hearing 3 weeks worth of Ricky fucking rumors talking about we were going to war, right? And none of that shit was true. But this one thing was fucking true, right? So then, as I'm on my way over to dental and picking up my dental records, I see it happen on the TV, and then guess what? There was some planes that hit the fucking World Trade Centers, and I'm like, holy shit, no one's fucking lying to me, right? Now I'm actually getting the fucking truth. Okay, so then the truth is that we went over to Afghanistan and hunt down this motherfucker, and we ran out the Taliban fucking government, right? And then we continued to chase this motherfucker for, what, another 9 years before Obama fucking ended up catching him, right, in Pakistan, which the whole fucking time
it was actually Obama. He did it himself.
Probably in Pakistan.
Obama was on the team that took
He's
out.
Probably in fucking Pakistan, which you know why we can't go into fucking Pakistan? History, right? So the reality is that moving forward with the foreign policy of the United States needs to be moving towards, right, is that if we're going to have our military forward deployed in any parts of the world, that land needs to be a part of the United States. Because that is the only way that we as a people are going to have the vested interest in defending it, right? And that's the only way that those people are going to be able to have a voice in our representative government. What that's going to take is the American people taking a real look at how their
we should just make Afghanistan a state
and decide what it is that the federal government should or should not be doing. Because that is the only way as a nation that we are moving forward. Now, what's happening right now in Afghanistan is regrettable, but given the politics of the day, it really feels
we need
like
to claim more
land,
guys.
Regardless, and it's a damn shame that the
we need to start
people didn't
manifesting
feel like
our destiny in Europe
and
the Middle East. Okay.
Okay.
Not conquering countries, conquering them, making them states.
Fawn.
All right, that's the plan.
I was 5 years old when the Twin Towers got destroyed. Just wanted to flex on that. It was crazy. Man, this topic, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know a lot about the American military. Apart from the fact that it's just clearly been a headache for way too long. So
She's
why
trying.
is she here? Good question.
She's from New Zealand. She's trying.
I got asked to be here. I'm not an American. I'm sorry. So I feel like I might just not sit it out, but I'll just listen, and I'm gonna be honest and not try and talk out my ass. I don't know that much.
Okay, now we're gonna throw it over to Lonerbox.
Yeah, the whole thing is just a really, really sad story. Like catastrophic failures on all parts, on all sides, basically. Just like whether it was the fact that they underestimated the degree to which the Taliban were supported by Pakistan from the very beginning, the fact that even around like a decade ago, there were UN officials getting fired for saying that the US didn't have any credible local partner in Afghanistan, the fact that you basically have a country that has been fought over since the days of Alexander the Great, has never been successfully taken over by any foreign power. Like, it's an impossible country to hold. And
it's so geographically
the
secure.
fact that whether it was Trump
It's wild.
making all those concessions in the Qatar agreement, leaving the Afghan government in the lurch, or Biden just not even making an effort to amend any of it and just going with it. It's really sad, and it's actually no wonder really that in hindsight that it happened so quickly, because like you had a government that was just completely bloated, and given the first chance, the president runs away with over $100 million, and it's, well, of course you're not going to fight for that. I think really, as far as having a useful conversation about it, I guess the best thing we can do is accept as many refugees as possible and do what we can to the people who have been so badly let down by British Army, I mean, at the very least, we're not getting the conversation that we had in the British Parliament on Wednesday, which was a freakish amount of Labour MPs and a surprising amount of Conservatives actually arguing that we could have actually produced a liberal democracy in Afghanistan if we just stayed there a little bit longer. So I'm glad to not hear that from the States. Yeah, I think support for refugees is really like
Lonerbox is talking.
the most useful thing I think we can do now.
Lonerbox right here.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Shark.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. We're there for a really long time, and I mean, I guess if we're all gonna say where we were, I was in daycare across the Brooklyn Bridge, because I was in baby mode. I was like barely one, when that happened. Actually, a little older than one, when that happened. So I mean, I don't really remember too much of it, if I'm gonna be completely honest.
I
But
think
I
I was
remember the majority of those 20 years
Yeah, it
that
was
we're
2.
there. So I think it is good generally that we left.
No, I was 1.
You can't stay in one place militarily forever, and we were propping up the country with our military and the military of other countries the entire time.
I was a little over 1.
When the president left, when most of the Afghan army kind of basically gave up, there's not much that we can do there. Basically, the execution of it, I think it's funny. If we're gonna actually, no, never mind, I'm not doing it. I think the execution was not the best. I really wish that we would have spent more time mobilizing more resources to get more refugees out, and to get more of our translators and people who helped our servicemen and women navigate Afghanistan and help people there get out and not be stranded now. There are many people who've been killed by the Taliban already. It's too late for some of them, and hopefully we can help out as many as we can. And I think, yeah, the most fruitful conversation that we could have right now is the best way to possibly get as many refugees who want to go to get out of that country now.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to T-Jump.
Yeah, I think it's a really tough situation overall. I think that the goal of the American military has always been to try to promote democracy and to eliminate as many terrorist and dictator governments always as much as possible. And so using 9/11 as an excuse to do that was kind of makes sense for what America's like foreign policy actually is. And I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing to try and institute democracy and to get rid of as many terrorist organizations or terrorist governments as possible. I mean, I imagine that the Afghani people were probably thrilled to get rid of their terrorist overlords, and I imagine a lot of them are very upset that America is now leaving. And so it's a tough call to make because there's a justifiable reason to keep America there, to try to help the people there and not make them suffer because they're just got unlucky to be in a bad situation. But at the same time, spending that much money there instead of trying to invest here in our economy is also kind of a shaky political ground. It's like, should we be spending all this money overseas to help all of the people who are in need, genuine need across the world, or should we try to invest here and fix the problems in America first? It's a tough call, and there's going to be lots of people who we can't save, who we should be trying to save, or should save if we were morally perfect, who we can't. And so it's hard to really make a judgment here because both options are bad. Leaving is bad, staying is bad, but the goal of saving lives is an overall good thing that we should try to pursue.
I'm gonna throw it over to Xanderhal.
I'm so excited to talk about this. From the beginning, or I should say, at least from the beginning of this year, looking at this issue, it was very clear that we had two options. We had the option of staying quite a bit longer to try to keep the small amount of peace that we've been able to establish there, hold some larger cities such as Kabul and bring rights to work and go to school for women, and stay there indefinitely for the foreseeable future, or pull out. I don't think there's anything that we could have done in the short term with this pullout to make things better. I really don't. I think the Taliban was going to come in and take over the second that we left. And if you care about the people of Afghanistan and you don't want the Taliban to rule them, the best option on either side was pull out and help as many refugees as you possibly can. Help evacuate everybody who is afraid for their lives and for their rights to get out of the country, and offer asylum to them because, I mean, most of them are leaving because they know the Taliban's going to fuck them up for working with us, right? Or stay and keep a few thousand soldiers there, mostly to act as a deterrent for the Taliban to attack. Because, I mean, if the Taliban kills a bunch of American soldiers, I mean, it's not a good idea. That's a huge part of why we're there. But those are really our only two options from the beginning of this. Stay or go, and there's going to be a lot of suffering if we go.
Okay, now before we start, there is a quick thing I am going to read because I've been reading this anytime Afghanistan comes up, and I don't want to give any more opinions. But it's simply a quote from an Afghan pilot that I wanted to highlight. And this is a question to the pilot. Anything you want the American public to know? Many Afghan soldiers died bravely. I've been fighting for over 15 years. We did not all just give up and quit. Yes, some did, once the Americans left. We weren't ready to start doing all the logistics, the maintenance, and the corruption really hurt us. I know people in the US are upset that we didn't fight longer, but we've been fighting for decades, and some of us even longer. When the US left, it really affected morale, especially how quickly it happened. We woke up one day, the Bagram was gone. That's a base. Everyone got scared. It got out of control. I'm mad at many of the senior leaders who lined their pockets and simply vanished from the country. However, thousands of Afghan officers were not responsible for that. We were simply doing the best we could. There are a lot of Afghans who trusted the United States, not just translators, not just civil society activists, but also Afghan soldiers who loved fighting alongside the Americans. Please don't leave us behind. Please, we will be great Americans. End of quote. Okay. Now I will leave it up to the room.
All right, so the reality of this situation from the start, right, is that while I can definitely appreciate that young man's heartfelt message, right, them not having the logistics and everything in place has a lot to do with their senior leadership and how they weren't fucking holding people accountable, right?
Put
they
them
were
in
definitely
power.
okay with
That
the
was
complacency
us.
that was going on, and they weren't taking their
We
own
put
freedom
their senior
fucking
leadership in power.
serious,
We built
right?
that government.
Now, the other stone
that
that I want to
military.
fucking throw is at the government of the United States itself. Right? And a lot of the fucking people that are getting there and playing politics instead of actually trying to consider themselves or be statesmen, which is exactly what this fucking nation needs. Right? In this situation, especially considering the government that had already been put in place for us being over there for 20 fucking years, right? Choosing to shut down the fucking airbase at Bagram was fucking stupid considering that the airport that's there in Kabul can't handle more than one C-5 Galaxy in the fucking airport, right? So that was dumb from the fucking start. But going on from that, if they had actually bothered to think, how is it that we could solve a problem which the Afghanistan has been a place of turmoil long before Alexander the Great, Lonerbox, right? Alexander the Great definitely settled
So
it,
no,
but
that
it was
wouldn't have
definitely a point
helped.
of contention from way back when, and the reason has to do all with the geography of that area. It's basically a central point for a lot of parts of the world. That would have been a great opportunity for the United States to have a vote to make Afghanistan a state of the United States, and for us to be able to have a vested interest in defending that land.
Hawaii
The fact
and
that
Afghanistan,
none of our
the
politicians,
51
who are all
first
fucking
state.
idiots, couldn't think of that on their own, and it takes a fucking Twitch streamer to tell them that is fucking ridiculous.
Can't imagine Afghanistan being a state.
All right, so Fawn, this is Twitch. You don't have to know what you're talking about in order to be here.
Yeah, but I would like to.
Well, that was,
you know what I mean?
wait. That was the disclaimer I forgot at the start of the stream. Everybody here is not an expert on any of the discussions we're talking about unless they say so at the start of the discussion. I forgot to say that at the beginning.
Yeah, facts. Please fact check us all. We're all idiots. Okay.
Okay.
I'm a linguist.
All right. I'm kind of smart sometimes. All right. So there were a few things that I wanted to address. Pakistan aid to the Taliban wasn't known. Lonerbox, like, I know that people were probably, arguing over that subject because they didn't want to admit it. But basically, Pakistan ISI helped evacuate the the Taliban during the invasion, and this was known. As a matter of fact, they requested that we hold off on taking it. I forget if it was fucking Tora Bora, but it might have been like another location where literally they were like,
pretty
"Hey,
friendly
you're
with
kicking
the
the shit
Taliban.
out of the Taliban right now. Can you hold off for a day or two so we can pull out our intel guys?" And instead of just pulling out their intel guys, they actually airlifted like a few thousand Taliban leadership. So Americans basically knew that. Not just that, but basically Pakistan requested to be the border security guard when we were taking a lot of the territory that we were doing during the initial invasion, and basically they let all of the fucking Taliban walk right by them when they were leaving into like Waziristan, I think is what it's called. So the military's known that shit. Whether or not it's been politically convenient to know that shit is a different thing. So I want to clarify something for the panel. Taliban are not, at least I wouldn't designate them a terrorist group. They're an Islamist authoritarian theocracy, and they're boys with terrorist groups, but they're not an international terrorist organization. They're a regional authoritarian theocracy. That doesn't mean that they're not
they
boys
house
with
terrorists.
They basically rub elbows with Al Qaeda. They rub elbows with Daesh.
They housed
or
Al
ISIS.
Qaeda.
So
didn't
basically,
they? That's why we invaded.
It's kind of like a distinction without. I mean, it is an important distinction because the chances of the Taliban launching an international terrorist attack is pretty low. Them harboring international jihadist organizations is relatively high unless we figure out either a diplomatic or military solution. So in order to talk about that one Afghan soldier, because I'll keep that in my mind. So that one Afghan soldier, if he's literally been fighting for 15 years, bring his ass over here. Completely fine with that. But here's the fucking truth of the matter, is that the Afghan National Army and the Afghan National Police were corrupt as fuck. They literally took all the equipment that we gave them. They sold them down in the local bazaars and the local markets. A majority of the Afghan National Army only existed on paper. Local warlords basically said, "Hey,
that's true.
Come out to this one training once a month. I'll put your name down. You don't even have to show up half the time. And basically, I'll collect $100 as a monthly stipend. I'll give you $20 and I'll keep the 80." And that's how a lot of the Afghan National Army actually exists. It's a kleptocracy. It's a dysfunctionally corrupt country. And while we can help the people who have helped us, no, fuck that. I think it's fine to get out when we did. Yield.
What do we think about refugees? Because I think Lonerbox said, yes, we should be welcoming the refugees, right?
Yeah. So basically, I would say anybody who actually helped us, who is
there's about to be a big refugee crisis. I'm telling you, Afghan refugees are going to be the next right-wing culture war, or not culture war, immigration thing.
Government officials that we know worked with us.
What about like innocent women and children that didn't fight?
See, that's an interesting question. The reason why I want to address this head on is because if you had said, "Hey, Afghanistan, we're leaving and we know the Taliban are going to take over," if you think that you're at risk of getting killed, then basically show up to the airport within the next month and we'll take you. That's basically, we're going to take on 50% of Afghan's population. So I don't see logistically how that's politically, socially, logistically realistic at all. So,
But what about other countries taking, like, do you think that America should take some and maybe like New Zealand is taking some refugees as
No.
well, like share it around? No?
No, I think, okay, no, we can take the people who are liable to get murdered or killed, but what I would really like is I would really like all of the Afghans that are like, hey, I worked with you guys. I fought really hard for 20 years
Her voice
with
is
the
cute, let
American
her
military.
talk, true.
How about
Her
you get
voice
on
is
your
cute.
fucking moped or your fucking truck, you drive out to Panjshir, you talk to the vice president, you say, hey, listen, I fought for the ANA and the Americans for 20 fucking years. Fuck these Taliban motherfuckers. I want to take back this goddamn country. And the truth of it is, a majority of the people who interact, whether it's Iraq or Afghanistan, a majority of these forces are paper tigers. The second that you stand up to them and punch them right in the fucking face, they fall apart. So the fact that we probably have, I don't know, a few 100,000 young men in Afghanistan who know how to fire rifles, and they're not actively doing this, actually pisses me the fuck off, because it's their wives, their girlfriends, their daughters who are going to suffer the consequences of an authoritarian theocracy, and yet they're not willing to fight. So no,
You
fuck
think that they can't leave though?
Leave?
That like they don't have the right to try to seek refuge in other places?
Who?
These people that you say are gonna be like suffer these consequences.
Sure, they can apply, and America can do its best. I'm telling you, it's gonna be woefully inadequate. I don't know if everybody's seen the footage. Literally, we have like tens of thousands of people lined up around Kabul airport. Literally, families are passing their babies forward in the hopes that the soldiers take the babies without the parents. That's what's going on right now. If there was a man in that household, okay, fuck tragic. Okay, men who are head of their household should look at that and say, rather than sending my daughter or my son halfway across the world in order to be fucking raised by people I will never know, how about I get with all the other fucking men that are around here that don't like the Taliban and we go kill the fucking Taliban? That's what should be being said right now, not
but
how do I get on a
maybe they don't want to die.
You think these Afghan men are just kind of cowards? Is that kind
yes.
of?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Why?
What do you think the Taliban will do to your family if you fight them?
Yeah, what the fuck, man? And not to mention as well,
If you give a if you're willing to send your child off to America to be raised by people, or to whatever country, to be raised by people that they'll that they won't have met their parents, whatever, they'll grow up there without their parents. Do you think maybe they care enough about their family to not want to fight the Taliban, and then their family be murdered because they're fighting the Taliban who now run things?
Okay. That's a calculation that every single individual can make. What I'm telling you is if we had 10,000 to 20,000 Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police actually stand up and fucking do something, this wouldn't be a problem in the fucking first place. But instead they folded like paper. And on top of that, here's the other fucking thing Dylan, you and I can fucking fight later on. You want to come later on this fucking week? We'll fucking do it. Oh, and on top of that, we'll bring
you
fucking.
You should be inviting stronger fucking guests if you got a fucking problem over there. That's all I'm saying.
Hold on. We'll bring. I don't know if Lycan can talk about it. But basically, all right. So I'll just give you an anecdote. So my buddy, Captain America, fucking love this guy. Worship the ground he fucking walks on. He's one of the best dudes I've ever met. He was in the Air Force. He was responsible for turning over the combat outposts and the bases to Afghan National Army, Afghan National Police. When he would show up in order to do the inspections for the troops, number one, the troops didn't show up. Number two, the perfectly good trailers that worked with air conditioning, concertina wire, copper pipes, all that kind of stuff, perfectly good plumbing, all of it was gutted before the fucking inspection. Literally the inspection that is meant to say, hey, ANA, ANP, they're good on their own. They can fucking stand on their own. They already had ransacked shit. On top of that, basically what was going on was we would go out to a base and we would say, hey, what's going on? They say, we never received our fucking shipment of AK-47s. We can't fight with this shit. And they would literally bring out like a fucking broken 20-year-old Soviet Afghan or like AK-47 covered in fucking rust. And they'd be like, we want to fight, but we can't fight because we have this old shitty equipment. And then you would go talk to the logistics guy in a different fucking city. And they would literally say, yeah, we sent those fucking rifles 3 times now. Every single time we send a new shipment, it's down at the bazaar the next fucking day. We're not sending them any more shit. And that's exactly the kind of kleptocratic bullshit that's been going on in Afghanistan for the past 20 years.
So you think we shouldn't help them?
Because I don't give a fuck. They could have helped themselves by now.
I just want to maybe offer an alternative solution, an alternative explanation to the idea that the hundreds of thousands of Afghan men just for some reason spontaneously like lost their balls, or maybe they're sneaking soy into the fucking tabbouleh or whatever. Like here were the terms of the Qatar
good.
agreement. So like the Afghan government warned that the terms would leave them in an extremely vulnerable situation regardless. The Taliban got 5,000 prisoners released, very valuable political chips to persuade a ceasefire. This was basically like, it didn't require the Taliban to expel Al-Qaeda or to stop attacks on the Afghan military or any offenses, but it did bind the Taliban to halt attacks on US and coalition forces. The Afghan government were left, and the military, etc., were left in an impossible, vulnerable situation. Not to mention that what were you going to fight for? Like a government that was,
To be fair, Connor's take is more empathetic
than
most of online left Twitter.
Companies. I'm
Right,
sorry,
like
it's just like
2 weeks ago.
This toxic, like this is, I don't know, I don't want to say toxic masculinity, but like
It's
people know when there's a losing battle, right? And yeah, like they're going to, it's not even a question of can we take them, etc. They're going to leave. And under international law, they can go wherever they want, and they're going to show up at countries' doors. Like there's going to have to be something in some kind of process in there to cope with that. And just don't be scared of refugees.
I just don't think it's a good enough reason for you to go like, oh, they didn't do things that I would have done, so fuck them.
It's not even to mention that fighting back is actually already happening in parts where it's possible. So yeah.
Well, that kind of goes along with what I'm saying, right? Because basically, they should go to fucking Panjshir. They should say, fuck the Taliban, fuck their theocratic, authoritarian fucking assholes. Let's start up the ANA, the ANP with the units that have balls, and let's fucking do this shit. And here's the fucking thing on top of that. If you want to look at troop levels, okay, what were the American troop levels for the past 20 years? Was it less than 10K? Was it less than 15K for 20 fucking years?
Look, in reality, the funniest fucking thing going on right now, because all you fuckers suck at memeing apparently, right? Like the funniest fucking thing going on right now is Dylan's reactions.
Oh yeah. It's hilarious.
Listen, all I want is for Quentin Tarantino to make a movie about Connor and CTV going to Afghanistan to fight the Taliban. That's all I want.
What are you doing, Xanderhal? What are you doing?
He's right.
I just have
like Inglorious Bastards in fucking Afghanistan.
The fucking thing that's been happening is Dylan's reaction. Xanderhal getting shouted over by and trying to make a fucking meme only shows, right, that you don't understand the simple thing that has been misunderstood so far with regard to Afghanistan, which is tact, right? Tact. If you had simply waited until I got done, you would have been able to make your joke. You would have been on point, and everybody would have laughed. But the reality is that you decided to power through. It's how you end up having a 20-year occupation in a fucking country with no politician ever considering the idea that maybe, just fucking maybe, right? If we were actually trying to bring peace to the Middle East, then the easiest fucking way to do that would be to make them a state, give them a voice in our representative governments, and own the fucking land. Because if you do that, that allows American business to be able to come in. It allows American values to be able to come in.
Manifest our destiny.
And the ideas of freedom that we are all so fucking outraged about, considering women are about to not be able to drive in Afghanistan, right? That's what's about to happen. Everybody's pissed off about it, but that's still where we're at. Right?
Okay, given that Afghanistan is not a 51st state and we probably can't make it one now, we're going to deal with refugees. I don't really know if they arrive in America, we're going to have some policy to suggest if they were really manly enough to fight back there, or we're going to fucking cup their balls and see like if they've got if they had the stones to stay or whatever, if they just left because they were a fucking pussy. I don't know. I'd maybe turn it around and say like a fear of refugees is one of the most fucking cowardly beta shit from like some of the richest and most powerful countries in the world. I'll give you one example.
Reality, right? If their men didn't even feel like that they were fucking worth getting up and defending.
I wasn't finished. Tact. Have you read the Constitution? Tact. I was going to finish and say, very untactful, from one intellectual powerhouse to another. I'll just give you one story about refugees, right? Greece, very small country, right? 1991, Iron Curtain falls. 2 million refugees enter a country of less than 10 million people. Most of those refugees were Muslim from Albania. Most were undocumented. They weren't legalized until the late 90s and the early 2000s. There was no damage to GDP. no
I mean,
increase in
until
crime.
the currency completely crashed, right? I think it was what
Fact.
2000.
Yeah,
2000
okay, I'm
what?
sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot to add the little
Well, we just
caveat
got
there.
to make sure
Yes.
that we
No,
understand
no,
that we
wait.
all remember that Greece's GDP completely fucking dropped. That's all
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying.
So I will address that little caveat. Yes, if you bring in 2 million refugees, then potentially, due to a completely unrelated global economic crash that happens 20 years later, then your economy might crash, and then you might enter into an economic union with a country that doesn't let you devalue your currency. Can you prove to me that refugees caused the Greek economy to be where it is 20 years after they arrived? No.
No, hold on. You asked a question, so shut the fuck up and wait for an answer. So, like, no, I can't do that. But what I can do, right, is point to the piss poor management that led to the decline of the fucking GDP. And then maybe, right, that same philosophical point was carried to 20 years fucking
the
before
fuck
that.
are they
I don't
arguing
fucking
about
know.
now?
Think about that for a minute.
Oh my
Please,
God,
just
you admit you
the
don't know then.
microphone
Talk about
Okay, good.
Afghanistan.
So
just
you
a little
can't prove
bit
that
further
refugees
away.
caused the Greek economic crash 20 years later.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
good.
Okay, so
Thanks,
we're gonna go to
Christy.
Fawn, Shark, then Connor because
Oh
Connor's
no,
got a
I
lot
already
to
said it. I already said it.
Okay,
It's fine.
then Shark, then Connor.
Yeah, I mean, Loner, I think you're onto something. We could call it toxic masculinity. I just think it's toxic. I don't think that anybody has like an obligation to throw themselves into a meat grinder. The best thing a parent can do is to wish for for their parents for their children to have the best life possible. I don't think that you need to be strapping your three babies to your back and then go combat rolling into fighting the Taliban. If I don't care if you fought, I don't care if you ran, I don't care what you did. If you're someone and you don't want to be under the thumb of the Taliban, and I think that you have a right to be here in America. I don't really I don't really know what your fighting status or anything has to do with that. No matter what, you're a human and you're someone who doesn't want to be have your rights being taken away. You deserve to be here.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to. Well, I was gonna throw it to Connor, but Fawn now has a point, so Fawn then Connor.
Just really quickly, I just want to point out also that other countries are taking refugees, specifically from Afghanistan. Like, I know that New Zealand is opening up for refugees currently. So, like, if that changes anything, don't worry that America is the only place that has to take on refugees. They won't be.
No, it was specifically just to point out that Greece already had piss poor management. That was all it was, right?
Yeah, and
Okay, so yeah, and Lithuania didn't take in any refugees, and their economy plummeted as well. I'm sorry, I didn't think I'd have to prepare for someone who I was saying I'm
Don't
mentioning
point out a
Greece. I'm like,
specific
nah,
country. I don't
no
know
one,
what to tell you, bro.
no
It's a
one,
meme.
no one will be.
It's so
I'm
much
just
of a
saying.
meme that there was a fucking Thor versus Zeus epic rap battle where they made that a part of the fucking line.
Wait,
That's how
what?
much of a meme it is.
Wait.
Okay? So eat your
Shotgun.
fucking
It's just
cereal, right? And just shut the fuck up.
all right.
It's just that when I was talking about Greece, I was actually
Oh, Jesus, and he
thinking
kept
like,
going.
Wait. CTV, you gotta give him time to respond.
just thinking in my head, like, actually,
I mean,
no one's
CTV, you gotta think. You dropped a Thor versus Zeus rap battle. That's some high level ideas.
That's a
engaged
big
in.
citation.
Yeah, I just like when I was talking about Greece, I was like sitting in my head thinking, no one's actually going to try to blame an economic crash that happened 20 years after.
This is so
mostly
bizarre.
due
We
to
aren't really
predatory
even
lending
talking about the
practices from the
topic.
EU, by the way. I thought no one's going to blame that on 2 million refugees that arrived 20 years later, but oh well.
And then
What
the
can you
next
do?
thing you know, somebody's
CTV, for the
aware
love of
something,
God, can I
and then
please
there
say
we
something?
Go, right? That
Okay.
somebody's aware of something, and there we go. Anyway,
Okay.
Connor, go ahead.
We're gonna throw it to Connor.
Someone's
Oh,
aware.
thank you, God. All right, Loner. Fuck. All right. I don't even think I've said the word refugee yet in this entire fucking conversation. The refugee fucking word and what we're gonna do is actually completely fucking separated from me. As a matter of fact, I would say there's plenty of veterans who have actually a very deep sympathy for translators, their families, pilots, their families, soldiers, their families. Like that, you know, there were, despite the ANA and the ANP being corrupt as fuck and logistic failures out the ass and a whole bunch of corrupt motherfuckers, there were a whole bunch of people who actually did have the balls to run around in soft armor and soft vehicles and take on the fucking Taliban. Those people's families should be able to come over here, and if those soldiers or airmen or whatever want to come over here, fine. What the fuck? But what I'm saying is, after just Googling it, literally 80% of the Afghan war, the United States had less than 20,000 troops in the nation of Afghanistan. 10,000 to 20,000 troops is not a major commitment. And on top of that, infantry, like, I'm going to insult all the fucking infantrymen who are listening to this right now. Infantry skills are not fucking rocket science. It's literally 12 grugs get in a fucking line, throw a grenade in the goddamn room, and then kill every single thing inside it. That's what it fucking is, okay? On top of that, air superiority, while complex, is not impossible. There's something called the A-29 Super Takeda. It's basically a P-51 Mustang upgraded with 2 fucking pilots and a whole bunch of fucking balls and the ability to carry bombs, okay? It's almost rocket science, but not quite. And frankly, I have a little bit more confidence in the ability of some Afghan people in order to figure out logistics and the power of flight, okay? And if they can't figure that shit out, then I have no fucking problems with private contractors being paid third party in order to support the vice president in fucking Panjshir, both with fucking air superiority and fucking training with foreign internal development in order to fucking fight the goddamn Taliban, okay? Because the truth is, if the fucking Taliban aren't in goddamn power in the fucking first place, then you can mitigate the humanitarian crisis that is fucking immigration. Dylan, literally fucking set it up for like Tuesday of next week. I'll tell my wife, who I'm like Tuesday through Thursday, I'm not supposed to be doing debates, that Dylan is about to have a fucking stroke on goddamn stream. And if I don't talk to him within the fucking next week, then he might actually die. And then we can schedule it and we can argue.
I'm just saying.
I want to see that.
I'm gonna say this.
By the way, I can't wait till Tuesday. It would have to be Monday. Okay, continue.
A little bit more personal note. God is.
You know I have a
definitely
prior
not damned.
commitment.
Hold on. God is definitely not damned at all, because God does some miraculous and wonderful things, of which I know my good friend Dylan Burns has
He's mad someone
experienced
said
here lately,
goddamn.
the mercy of God, and
What the fuck are we
definitely
talking?
not
We're
damned.
talking
Wait,
about
what?
close air support. What the fuck are we talking about?
Someone said goddamn, I think.
Someone
Okay.
God
can't keep up with
provides
the memes.
close air support.
Big bless.
Alright.
Connor, hold on. I have no idea what your point was about refugees. So you think that you should only have refugees that you deem useful?
We should only have refugees for people who are actually under threat of the Taliban, people who actually worked with us.
But isn't everyone under threat of Taliban? If you think that the Taliban is like such a bad ruler, I'm not saying that they're not, but like if you think that genuinely the Taliban need to be disposed of, does that not mean that general innocent people are under threat?
Okay, so the population of Afghanistan is 39 million. Let's say that the Taliban and their supporters is 1 million. Are you suggesting that every single nation in the world takes in 38 million people right now instead of
No.
turning around and killing a million assholes?
Well, that's not going to happen. A lot of people are going to stay. Like, there's never like a whole country doesn't empty itself. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's not what we're saying.
Didn't we
I'm
try
saying-
that for 20 years and it didn't work out?
Here's a. I mean, I don't know. As far as the,
I
20
have to
years.
describe
Weak.
power. Okay.
I guess if we want to debate the military thing, like I'm not a military person. You might have guessed, but like basically, like intelligence agencies were all kind of assuring the Western leaders that the Afghan government could make a fight of this. You know, Biden famously, there's like victory's not inevitable for the Taliban. Boris Johnson said that there was no military path to victory for the Taliban. But then you look a little bit under the surface, and then like Taliban military are like getting severely unpaid. They're lacking in supplies, food, ammunition. The Afghan army itself, I think they had become very accustomed to U.S. air support, which was a big. So it's not so much the numbers; it's like the format. But then, it was more of a like I think it was the kind of consensus that I read was that it's really more of the political strength that was given to the Taliban, particularly in the Qatar negotiations. But again, when it comes to refugees, I don't care if an Afghan man comes over fucking with his nails painted and he's got fucking piss running down his leg and he could have fought, but he just got too scared. You don't subject people like that to a cost-benefit analysis.
In this scenario, why does his nails have to be painted?
Oh, it's just a gender non-conforming stereotype. Don't worry.
Okay.
So yeah,
I just don't understand why his nails had to be painted. That's all. I'm just asking.
even
don't
if
get
he
caught
comes
up on
in
the point. It's not the point.
even if he comes in carton of fucking soy milk, piss running down his leg, crying, he's too scared to fight the Taliban.
Hey, what's wrong with soy milk,
You don't subject them
I mean,
to
that
a
just
fucking.
sounds more identifying to the left, if I'm being
Oh,
honest.
Okay. Can we let him?
finish.
Wait, we gotta let Lonerbox.
You don't
finish,
subject
okay?
them to a cost-benefit analysis. You don't weigh their balls. You respect them, and you basically just understand that, you know, like if I wanted to call out hypocrisy, I would, but it's fallacious. But you could still say, like, when people who say like Islam is like is like at its root like extremist and oppressive to women and all that, and then you see the contrast of the amount of people who were willing to cling on to the wheel of a plane and die rather than live under the Taliban. Yeah, you respect that and you let them in. Yeah, and also I don't know, just to throw it in, fucking like the people in mismanaged Greek were local. They weren't Albanian. Fuck, stay mad.
Okay. That I really feel like I needed to describe power for y'all because this is actually the exact reason why I'm not a fucking anarchist at all. All right, so basically this is the way that it works. There's five tiers to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I misapply them all the time. The basic is basically on CTV. Chill the fuck out. Bottom is basic physical needs. Second is security. Third is social. Fourth is fucking ambition. Fifth is like self-actualization. This is a psychological concept for why people do what they do when they do it. I basically use it to mass apply to society. And on top of that, security is one of the most important tiers because if you don't have physical security or financial security, you don't have the ability to either enjoy your social relations or in order to build an economy. An economy is important. It's one of the things that then reinforces the security apparatus and all that kind of bullshit, blah, 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 right? All right, so what we're fucking talking about, really what we've failed in the past 20 years to do is provide Afghans with the basic fundamental necessities and the security necessary in order to develop an economy that's complex enough to support a functioning military. That was our failure. We made all of our investments in the second tier, the security tier, without investing almost anything into the first tier. We built a few like photo op fucking church, or not churches, a few photo op schools for girls to go to school and shit, but we didn't give them fucking running water. We didn't give them reliable food. We didn't give them reliable home housing security and all that kind of shit. So basically what happened was when a poor fucking Afghan soldier who's only making $20 a month when he's supposed to be making $100 a month because his fucking warlord is corrupt, when he gets an AK that's worth fucking $200 or whatever, he goes to the market and he sells it because he's either got to pay his bills or feed his family or whatever the fuck, right? That was our fault. We played into the corruption of the society that already existed. And on top of that, we dumped $50 billion a year for the past 20 years down that fucking sinkhole. But what I'm telling you is that you don't need 38 million fucking people to turn on 1 million people. What you need is you need 20,000 fucking hard infantry and air support. That's all you fucking need. And you can find 20,000 good soldiers in Afghanistan to kick some fucking ass. So you don't need to put 500,000, 2 million, 3 million fucking people on a goddamn plane. What you need to do is you need to subcontract out logistics. You need to build a base of uncorruptible support. You need to build a fucking 10,000 to 30,000 fucking person army of people who actually want to fight the Taliban. And then you just need to fucking kill them. And then you secure Afghanistan. But instead of it being 10,000 Americans securing the goddamn country, it's actually locals who have an investment, who care about the country and want it to succeed.
Who is you in this situation?
I think the United States of America could literally fucking fix this with, I don't know, $10 billion a year, $20 billion a year.
But they
I feel like we've just been
didn't.
trying to do that for the last 20 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
we
spent
sure
$1
did.
Need an army. I just
trillion.
need 20 good
Yeah,
men.
but you know what happened? Okay, you know what happens?
What
when you
would
put-
be different if you were
What
in
would be
charge?
different?
We would have to have a different fucking president to be one,
No.
considering that they're ready to fucking announce them as recognized on the international fucking
Dylan's
stage.
mad.
CTV,
Dude,
please, before we lose the point, okay? No, what would be actually different is instead of basically Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police always looking over their shoulder and saying, oh, I got an American behind me, so I'm going to go ahead and do work. They can look over their fucking shoulder and they can see that they got their own people on over their fucking shoulder. They can have their own organic air. They can build their own competency. They can do their own military shit. That's the fucking difference because this is like a kid riding a fucking bicycle without training wheels and fucking face planting into fucking cement. You don't put the training wheels back. Well, maybe you do put the training wheels back on, but you put the fucking training wheels back on. You tell him to get
I
back
can't
on the
ride a
fucking
bike.
bike and he keeps going.
We weren't
Wait,
there.
Connor, are you in favor of us going back and
No.
trying to do the right thing?
No, what I am in support of is something called foreign internal defense. Basically, I think all of American foreign policy when it comes to the military can be done for 80% cheaper because all we have to do is train organic forces and provide them air support. Invading countries and holding them with a few 100,000 Americans should be dead policy by now. That should not be a thing anymore.
I don't know, man. It sounds like you're talking pretty confident about how easy the Taliban would be to fight. I think you just need to go in with 20 good men, and you can take the country by sunrise.
You know, this is the great irony of this. 20 good men can train 20,000 good men. And this is literally the mission of the Green Berets. This is literally the mission of the Marine Corps. Foreign internal defense. It's a very fucking simple concept. Every single debate I get into, I tell
Why-
people to fucking Google it.
Why
I don't-
does America feel the need to get involved in everyone else's business? That's just me. I don't
Well,
understand
they-
that.
Well, we
Oh,
got
I'm
fucking
sorry.
attacked.
Sorry, hold on.
Oil,
I mean, like, no, fine,
skyscrapers.
you asked a very simple fucking question, right?
I am asking a very simple question.
Right.
It's
so
a genuine question. I'm not like.
No, I'm with
gonna
you, right?
scratch
So when other countries in the world, like, let's take an example of the Balkans back in the 90s, right? Let's bring a little history to this. When everything was going on there, how long did it take for any of the European countries to do fuck all when it comes to the genocide that was happening there? They fucking didn't.
I don't know.
Nothing
I'm
happened
not. I'm
until
not
the
European.
Nothing happened until the United States went in and did something about it, right? So when other people are getting killed around the fucking world, everybody else will just turn a blind fucking eye to it and be like, well, that ain't our fucking problem, right? The United States is the only one that has been willing to stand up and say, hey, this is some fucked up shit and it shouldn't be fucking going on.
Okay, no, that's not why.
Yeah,
Why?
you're talking about fucking like.
These,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm
New
sorry.
Zealand
These
is-
two are so funny. It's like a parent apologizing for their kid every
See-
time. Connor's just like, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I'm amused.
See, I love CTV, but no, that's not why. If you actually look at the entire roots of the global war on terror, basically what happened was we wanted oil. We went to Saudi Arabia and Iran. Iran flipped theocratic. We made a deal with Saudi Arabia in order to keep them theocratic. Osama bin Laden didn't like that we helped out during the Persian Gulf War. He didn't like that we stuck our fingers into shit. He didn't like the fact that we were helping out Israel. So in order to fucking basically give the middle finger to us, he blew up the World Trade Center and the Pentagon because those are the two symbols of the seat of American power. In his own manifesto, he basically said that it was his goal to drag out America into the Middle East and North Africa. That way people in the Middle East and North Africa would hate us so fucking much that they would rise up and kill us and we would bankrupt ourselves in the effort. He almost fucking succeeded. But what ended up happening was the Middle East and North Africa they kind of rose up against us, but not really all the way. And on top of that, despite that, we've been able to print enough money that we've been able to run 2 fucking wars.
Address what I
past
said,
20 years.
counterpoints.
What? That we fight for freedom, freedom in the American way?
It's very idealistic.
That we do what?
I mentioned the Balkans. You've been doing this long-ass fucking rant about the Middle East. I didn't say a fucking thing about the Middle Est. I mentioned the Balkans specifically to answer the fucking question, and then you
talk about the Balkans.
No, right?
The Balkans.
So where is it that your foundation is for arguing back against my argument whenever you said fucking no, right?
Okay,
Where?
So the truth is that we supported. We didn't support. We basically acted not quickly enough during World War II. As a result, 6 million Jews were slaughtered along ethnic lines. Since that happened in World War II, we've had a really bad distaste for ethnic genocides. Not enough to care about places that don't matter. For instance, like Rwanda, we didn't care about the Hutus and Tutsis killing the fuck out of each other when we had the opportunity.
Why do you think they didn't matter?
Because they didn't have resources that we gave a shit about, and they weren't close enough to Europe.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So basically, what happened in
right there.
Kosovo and Bosnia and all that kind of stuff is there were 3 ethnic groups: one of them Muslim, one of them Serb, one of them Croat, 2 of them Christian, one of them Muslim. The Serbs basically want to maintain Yugoslavia. The Croats want to leave. They start a civil war, and then the Serbs decide, hey, we don't like the Muslims who infiltrated this area, so we're just going to start slaughtering them because it's close to Europe and because Europe feels guilty about the Holocaust. We intervene.
So exactly what part of what I said didn't answer Fawn's question?
Wait, man, you're not talking about the Hutus and the Tutsis, man. He talked about the Hutus and the Tutsis, bro.
I don't even know why the fuck you're
Answer him, bro.
Right now. You ain't even said shit this whole fucking time. So you jumping in right now is only clear indication that your beta behavior is coming out and you feel a need to speak.
Talk about the Hutus and the Tutsis, CTV.
Now, Connor.
Okay. Can we please say? I do want to make sure that we talk about Afghanistan a good amount here.
Oh,
Okay,
I want
let's get back
to.
to that.
I want to.
Wait, I have a
No,
take. I want to see if
no,
people
no,
like.
Xander, hold
We'll,
on,
we'll,
I'm not
we'll
gonna-
let CTV finish and we'll go to you, Zan. I promise.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly. Right. So Connor, right? Whenever you come off and you say no to begin with, and everything that you ended up saying only made my point to answer the question of why the United States gets involved in other parts of the world or why they care. It's actually the truest answer that's been given, and you saying no to begin with shows a clear misunderstanding of the question that was asked and then the answer that was given. Thank you.
But you said that it was like for a good reason. Like, oh, America just can't stop. Okay, never mind. Nothing. I get it. You're right.
Xanderhal.
Yeah, so I think us pulling out of Afghanistan and leaving all of those people there is tantamount to if America was just like, Well, they kind of were just like, oh yeah, we don't care about what the Nazis are doing to the Jews in Europe in the 1940s. I think it's tantamount to that. We're leaving a lot of people there to die and suffer. Every woman in that country is going to be having their rights to go to school, own a business, work, all that stuff taken away. We're allowing a extremely authoritarian, reactionary regime to take control, and I think it's a shame that we've allowed politics in this country to get to the point where people are so overwhelmingly populist and anti-war that they just hear, oh, we've been in this place for too long, we need to get out of there, without really acknowledging like the logistics and what's really going on there. Because something that I realized very quickly before all of this went down, whenever I saw Dylan talking about it, whenever I talked about it, is a lot of people just thought we were just there because why not? They didn't know why we were there, and they didn't know what the consequences of us leaving were going to be. And I think it's a shame that people were so unaware of all of this right up until it was too late.
Yeah, but okay, to complete your analogy, this would be like if the United States, let's say that like Nazi Germany, was basically, I don't know, oppressing the Jews or something like that. And we invaded in 1920 and we were like, hey, we're going to train up everybody in order to be able to create a new country. And we basically gave the Jews $50 billion a year in assistance and weapons and training and all that kind of stuff. And after 1945, we left. And then we said, hey, you need to fight for your fucking selves. That's more the metaphor that would be like if you were to complete this as a historical analogy, it's not that we didn't do nothing and we let these people get slaughtered. We paid $50 billion a year for 20 years, air support and military training and military equipment. So I don't think this analogy quite works.
Well, all that effort isn't really worth much if it
with
doesn't work, does it? Right? Like it doesn't really mean much if it didn't work out. If all these people are still going to either die or have their rights taken away or be trying to escape the country. All that help doesn't really matter in the long run if that's how things turned out, right? We clearly didn't try hard enough.
What we did there with after Germany was one of the worst things you could have done, because what happened was after a bunch of the concentration camps were discovered and then they saw everything that happened and they filmed it and sent it back, then suddenly a bunch of the governments don't want that footage to be seen so quickly by the public because none of those countries wanted Jewish refugees. And then what you had was they didn't want people to rush to a British colony in Palestine for too suddenly, so they reopened the camps and that's what they did after the Second World War. Bergen-Belsen, the camp where Anne Frank died in, was reopened and Jews were put back into it. And then without being told why they were there, the same trains that used to take them to the death camps came up to take them just in little small amounts to Palestine. That was a fucking terrible solution. But when it comes to Afghanistan, fighting back has already started. I think there's already the son of a Northern Alliance person is leading resistance somewhere. This is already happening, but it is unlikely because Afghanistan is one of the most multicultural, diverse countries in the region, maybe even in the world. It's massively diverse, and then that's going to mean that it's going to be very difficult potentially for the Taliban to hold control. But then the best we can hope for there, with these big Stonesy Northern Alliance is just that we're going to have a civil war, and then you've got the Taliban next door to a nuclear power. So
can I hold?
Okay, wait. His name is Ahmad Massoud. He started the resistance in the Punjab region, and they've recently made gains today in the Baghlan province, moving into other provinces as they continue to advance. That doesn't mean contributing. That's just me clarifying.
Okay, and I was just going to finish off, if I can just put one more thing. But yeah, the point is, so basically, we're probably going to, if this goes the way we want it to, we're going to have a civil war. So, and again, no one's obligated to live in a civil war. They can claim asylum somewhere.
Okay, just step up your game a little bit better. I mean, you knew this topic's been coming all week, and now you got Dylan chiming in to try to help clarify things for you. Your team needs to get some better fucking knowledge on your side. I'm just saying.
All I said was his name.
You did it. You did it.
He just named I've got the name in my notes. I didn't think it was important.
Okay, Lonerbox. Hold on. Can
I throw it over to Zan though? Connor. We got it.
But I'm gonna fucking lose it. All right, I'll write it down.
Okay, write it down. Zan.
Yeah, so earlier Connor was talking about military tactics that could be used by the strong, still willing to fight men left in Afghanistan to try to fight against the Taliban. And frankly, I think the only way this conflict ends is if Afghanistan breaks up into possibly several other smaller countries. All of these people of all these different ethnic groups that haven't gotten along very well historically, now being in this one place and feeling as though they need to conquer this whole area. I don't know how that's going to last. I either think the Taliban is going to rule, or there's going to be small uprisings and rebellions all around. It might just end up being that some agreement is reached and the country breaks up. I'll defer to Dylan on if he thinks that's realistic, but that's what I thought might be an actual outcome that could occur.
Okay, so
I don't think that's likely. I mean, like, given the history of every other country that's ever had this happen, like, that isn't the thing.
Okay, so basically, before I fucking lose it, I just want to hold Lonerbox. I want to hold you to some like intellectual consistency. Okay, just not you personally. Okay, just lefties in general. This could be a straw man if you wanted. Okay, basically, you know, when we talk about like Western society, Western civilization, like all that kind of stuff, we always talk about like diversity is our strength. Oftentimes, I describe myself as a civic nationalist. I think there are some things that we have to have in order to unify us. Those things, for me personally, as an American, those are three principles: right to conscience, freedom of speech, limited government, and the right to self-defense. Those are the things that I think that we root our cultural foundation on, and then we can add in some other things later on. So my question is, what, like, can you answer for me, hopefully in a nuanced way, why, like, basically, you know, diversity, multi-linguistic, multi-ethnic fucking groups can't get along in the new Afghanistan in a fucking, you know, like a representative and negotiated and diplomatic way when we basically advocate for, you know, multiculturalism on the home front?
Yeah, a few things, I guess. Maybe if we just discard the Afghanistan thing, because that like adds a lot more layers, but as for the evidence, basically, I guess, for like, I don't know, maybe the elephant in the room is letting a bunch of Muslims come to the West or whatever. Like, yeah, well, at least what happens in the UK is we often hear that, like, first of all, multilingual, no.
Afghanistan,
I think a language, fine. Even refugees, I think if you're a refugee, you should probably speak the language. That's probably why they tend to not stay in the first safe country they arrive in, is because they can't speak the language. But when it comes to, like, when people say, especially with the criticisms they make of Muslims, is they don't respect women's rights as much, or they're more inherently theocratic. What you find, at least in the UK, because that's my reference point, is that most Muslims disproportionately vote for the Labour Party, the party that is more likely to push LGBT rights than any other. So you find the integration. That's a very different conversation. We spoke of this before. I was going to say that maybe I would want to talk to you just one-on-one about that, because that's interesting.
Yeah. So we can.
But yeah, basically, because in a functioning liberal democracy, integration happens, whereas in Afghanistan, like, it's not a functioning liberal democracy.
That's such a good idea.
Then I want to address like Zan's point really quick. So basically, like, there's a few geographic reasons why that wouldn't necessarily happen, and like you're right, it is a very diverse place. We're talking about like Turkmen, Tajiks, Hazaras, Pashtun, I want to say. Basically, we are talking about like 5 to 6 different ethnic groups. I think even more than that, and probably like 3 to 4 languages. So there are problems here. I'm not gonna lie. But the reason why that's probably not going to happen is because a lot of people rely on Afghanistan as a buffer state. Whether you're talking about Iran or Pakistan, they kind of want to hold that shit together, and they want a cohesive government to negotiate over this territory.
That makes sense. I just think it's a possible outcome that could occur.
Oh, I guarantee you it's realistic in the short term. So, for instance, like the Turkmen, Tajiks, and I'm trying to think, maybe even some of the Hazaras, they would break off into the Northern Alliance. As a matter of fact, when we first invaded the country, the Northern Alliance is the people that we allied ourselves with. The problem is that the Southeast region is predominantly Pashtun, and they don't have any legitimacy there. So in the short term, it's actually completely possible that they're going to divide up along like ethnic and linguistic lines. I'm just thinking long term, eventually Afghanistan will be a country again.
Yeah, maybe.
Also, chat, we can't bring Destiny in. He's on meth, literally.
That's the best part. Imagine Destiny on meth at 2 times speed.
There's a certain thing to be said about irresponsible platforming, and bringing somebody on meth to talk about Afghanistan might not be the best idea.
Tell me that's not good content, Dylan. Do it for the content. Tell me it's not good content.
I had a question for Counterpoints.
Brilliant to me.
So Counterpoints is promoting
Please
the idea that we should train a bunch of people in the country, give them a bunch of weapons so that they can support themselves, something like that. What do you call it?
Foreign internal defense.
Isn't that what we did that got Osama bin Laden in power in the first place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So hold on, hold on. Let me be hold on. Let me be very nuanced here, okay?
Okay. Wait. Sorry, I know this is a personal thing, but I just want to be able to say this. CM Punk just re-debuted for the first time in fucking forever with All Elite Wrestling. I'm sorry, I'm just saying that.
That's
Okay,
super
continue.
cool.
Hey, let's go.
All right, so Methstiny is fucking base memes, and also addressing American consultation specifically with Osama bin Laden. There's no reason to believe that Osama bin Laden trained under the Haqqani network, and as a matter of fact, basically they beefed with each other. The Haqqani network was the one that was actually, like, as far as my understanding goes, was the actual like CIA trained Stinger missiles like group, and on top of that, they still exist today. They're the most they're the most competent anti-American force in Afghanistan, like by leaps and bounds. Like the way that you know that you're fighting Haqqani network, at least according to grunts that I've talked to, is that basically the rifle fire is accurate, whereas the other assholes that you fight in the country just spray and pray and can't hit a fucking thing. The reason why is because they were actually trained in order to use their weapons properly. There is a risk, there's a huge risk in training anybody properly. As a matter of fact, part of the reason why American forces got so butthurt and got so tired of training ANA and ANP in the first place is because, number one, they were corrupt as fuck. Number two, they stole their gear and sold it. Number three, oftentimes during training sessions, you can literally Google this, like it's called, like, I want to say it's called green on green. Or green on blue. Fuck, I forget the fucking colors. But basically, like, ANP and ANA would turn around and shoot their American trainers in the fucking back. So literally, and kill them. So that's where basically getting a core of competent people who are aligned with your interest is important.
How was that handled, Counterpoints, at the
How
time?
was what handled?
Whatever, I mean, you said they would turn around and shoot the American in the back. How was that handled?
I have, Larry.
We killed them back, and then we stopped training them as well.
Okay. As long as there was a fucking guillotine involved, I'm good.
Yeah.
Actually, don't we take a lot of them prisoners of war, like, if we can?
Yeah, but again, like, this is
chill.
Yeah, this is all logistics shit. But the point being that there are real problems with training people who are potential enemies to a competent level. Absolutely.
So the solution here is, like, to pick the right group of people to train and gives gun to this time, even though in that country the same, like, underlying thing that made them sell their guns and not want to.
That's not the solution. Have you not been listening?
No, actually it is.
No,
Shark.
it's not the solution.
Leave me alone!
It's not the solution to pick one.
Well, wait. Let's let Connor finish.
Oh, come on.
CTV. Wait 1 second. All right, Shark.
That's not the solution, though.
But you'll be able to respond. That's a wait. CTV. Do you disagree with Connor?
I disagree with Shark.
And Shark. Okay, then you will be able to respond. You'll be able to respond to that point. That's the point of the show.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. That's why I responded to Shark, not Counterpoint.
Okay, I just want Connor to go and then you go because they're gonna make the same point.
Okay, CTV. The reason why I haven't addressed your fucking state shit is because it's never gonna fucking happen. I don't give a fuck if every single American fucking wakes up tomorrow, reads like fucking 500-page treatises on the fucking origins of the Constitution and fucking legalism and shit, and all of us are like, hey, let's just turn the entire United States of America into the United States of the world under the American Constitution. It's not gonna fucking happen. So that's why I don't address that point. Almost done. Let me address Shark. So Shark, this is where I talk about power. This is the nature of all power. Basically, there is no world. The reason why I'm so hostile to gun control is because I don't believe in a world without violence. I don't believe in a world without power. I don't believe in a world without a state. The only thing that you can do is you can balance power against power. You can regulate power, and that's all you can fucking do. So when you're like, hey, maybe we'll train the right people this time, fucking maybe. I don't fucking know. But that's history, baby.
Problem right there, Connor. That's your fucking problem.
I'm happy to listen to my problem.
You feel like shutting down the conversation, right, amongst Americans about what the actual good would be to take reign of their own federal fucking government and expand the ideas of freedom around the world is exactly the fucking problem. You don't shut down that conversation. As a matter of fact, you should be doing everything that you can to expand it so that the types of conflicts that we keep having to be involved with, and Fawn, you can make those motions if you want, but I didn't see New Zealand jumping up to fucking defend the Balkans earlier, right? So therefore, you don't have a fucking horse.
New Zealand. That's what I'm saying. Is stay out of New Zealand.
If you really want to stop the America getting involved in these fucking conflicts, the only fucking way to do that and maintain the idea of the American people of freedom and not this continued fucking tribalism that we continue to see is to make the land a state of the United States. What are the people really afraid of? It's not that they're going to have so many votes in the House of Representatives that they'll be able to overpower us. It's not that they'll have so many votes in the fucking Senate, right? So what's the fucking problem here? The problem might be is that the social welfare programs that the federal government is not supposed to be being a part of to begin with is what's fueling this fucking argument. So rein in the federal fucking government to the point to where it was originally fucking statute to where social welfare programs are not a part of it, and those issues are handled by the fucking state. And if the state is collecting its own fucking taxes to be able to pay for social welfare programs, then so fucking be it. That's what they want to do. But rein in the federal government so that it allows for the ideas of freedom that we all hold dear to take precipice around the fucking world. Otherwise, we're going to end up with Chinese fucking communism.
What is
Is
the
is that another Epic Rap Battles citation or?
do you know what number rank
I'm having a really good time.
the United States is and like the freedom, ranking the freest countries in the world?
So like 35 or some shit.
I'm trying to find it.
I'm assuming that the numbers that you would include are that of the drug war, which I would be very, very outspoken against. Anybody that knows CTV knows that CTV is definitely against the war on drugs.
I'm against war on drugs too. But if we're talking in general terms,
Speaking
I
of
believe
drugs.
New Zealand beats America in that.
It's the way the cookie
And
crumbles.
that little thing. I mean, drugs is one issue.
It doesn't really stand on much of the principle, though, when it comes to bringing freedom around the world, though,
The
does
drug
it?
war.
What's
What
the,
is it? But the freedom around the world
There we
that
go.
America is supposedly bringing isn't actually that free.
You're
Also,
right.
China isn't
No,
communist.
no. You're absolutely fucking right, and that has a lot to do. And I definitely hold my own fucking American, fucking patriots, fucking whatever you want to call them, my fellow Americans responsible, especially when they get involved in government, to where they're acting more as politicians and only vested in their own self-interest rather than what's in the best interest of the country as a whole. Right? That's where I fucking stand, and that's where I stand every fucking time, right? It shouldn't matter the fucking party, whether it's Democrat or Republican. It should only matter what's best for the fucking country as a whole, not just one fucking part of it where you want to say, oh, well, this is bad for this community, or segregate the entire population into X number of fucking communities as it is, instead of uniting underneath the one American population.
So I got a question for CTV.
Yeah, I want to throw the T jump
What?
before we probably move on.
So CTV seems to think it's a good idea to just make every place a state. So he essentially just wants to conquer the world. And you think making states is a good thing?
By
Like
votes.
this is
as long as you're clear, T-Jump, by votes.
Well,
not by
more
votes.
By voting by the American people?
yeah. So are we voting to take over
that's
other
how
countries? Is
Contractual
that
agreements are reached, right? By the voting party to be a part of, and then the voting party to be accepted by, right? That's how these things work.
so? We're going to
What's
ask
the,
the Afghani
what's the-
people if they want to be a state in America.
what's the polling in Afghanistan for whether or not they should be a state of the United States of
That
America?
Epic Rap Battle hasn't come out yet. You'll have to wait.
There's no polling
Isn't
on
New Zealand
what.
still locked down for COVID too? By the way.
What?
Well, but
We
that's
just
a good
entered a
thing, though.
lockdown, yes.
Okay.
But we
Haven't
have
been
not been in
reported.
lockdown for a very long time.
Yeah,
I actually
it's
think-
like Florida didn't, right? So there goes your idea of freedom.
Well, CTV,
But
you seem to be
it's
avoiding my
freedom-
question.
I don't want to talk about
I'm
COVID
sorry,
right now.
I found
I can
personal
argue
interest.
that.
Wait. Okay. This is getting a little off the rails. We're gonna let CTV. I want him to respond to D-Jump's question. Then we're gonna throw it to Zan. They're probably gonna wrap up the topic. Shark, you haven't talked much to this topic. If you want some time to talk as well, you can throw it over to you. But T-Jump.
Yeah, so CTV, you keep advocating for this. America makes every place a state, and so you're under the impression this would be a good thing if we just started conquering every place through voting, essentially, and just adding as many states as we could. You think this is a good idea?
I mean, if
overall?
you think the idea of two mutual parties agreeing to and the agreement of being a state to the United
I'll bring her
States,
back if you
which
guys
is, in
donate.
fact, our federal government, then sure, we'll call it a conquer if you want, right? But considering there would be two parties that would be entering into a free agreement, right? I wouldn't call it a conquer myself. But if the American people are ever going to get to the point to where they're like, hey, we don't want women being raped, women not being able to vote, women not being able to drive a fucking car, women not being able to just walk down the street without wearing something that covers their fucking face. And they live in a society to where there is police that enforce the fucking law and it's not fucking mob rule or gang fucking rule. Then we need to be taking a real look, especially in these parts of the country, or the parts of the world, rather, right, that allow these things to happen and where we would choose to be involved, that we do so the right way instead of allowing politicians to get us involved in these quasi-fucking nation-building fucking bullshit that costs however many billions of fucking dollars to taxpayers, and then we're all set here left with the fucking bill.
So my question here is that if we're advocating for making them states, doesn't that mean we're also obligated to give them, I don't know, food stamps, water,
Which
health
is
insurance?
exactly where I said earlier, I'm glad that you were listening, that the American people need to start taking a real look at how our federal government is structured with regard to social welfare. If the states want to employ social welfare, then the states can collect taxes to employ social welfare. But as far as the federal government is concerned, it was nowhere laid out in our Constitution that that was the responsibility of the federal government.
Yeah, but these places are poor, so they can't afford to do that yet. So are we going to subsidize them to try and help them to get them to the point where they can do that? Are we going to give them these things? No.
Okay, hold the fuck up.
Business to be able to come in there and to be able to rise up these people through small fucking business. That's how you're going to do that.
Stop. Holy fucking shit. T-jump. Stop. Holy fuck. All right. CTV. If you want to talk about fucking turning foreign countries into fucking states and shit, we can do that. But can we, you're at like a fucking 11 and a half. And I went to go pee. And I come back and you're still at an 11 and a half. Can you bring it down to like a solid 7.25?
I will certainly try, but
we honestly
this is
have
the
to
Hippy
wrap up
Dippy.
the topic. We
Okay.
do have
I
to
do
wrap
as you
up the
told you,
topic.
little scamp.
And everybody's going to have an outro topic. And I just want a personal message from me to everyone. I want everyone in chat to disregard everything they've heard for the last hour. That's my personal advice. You don't have to. That's my personal advice. I'm going to throw in the top left-hand corner to American Nacho.
Hey, man. I get all my citations from epic rap battles, and this has been great. I love this.
Amen, brother. We're gonna throw it over to Connor.
You can disregard everything except for everything that I said. And if Dylan has a fucking problem with that, then I'm gonna see him middle of next week. Not on Monday, because I have a prior commitment, but any other day we can pick.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Man, it's hard for me to care about politics right now. Man, CM Punk is back. Okay, we're gonna throw it over to CTV.
Okay, so you can disregard everything else that everybody else has said, because let's just keep the fucking meme going at this point, right? I mean, everybody disregard what the fuck everybody else said, except for me, because I'm obviously, right, the people's champion. And we knew that from the fucking start. So why the hell else would you listen to anybody else, right? The reality here is that we need to start taking a real look when it comes to participating at the world stage. We cannot continue to have our military forward deployed in foreign countries and then expect that these fucking entangling alliances that our founders warned us against were somehow supposed to be best for us as a people, right? Our politicians have been failing us for a long fucking time, and what we need are real fucking statesmen to enter office.
Okay, now we're gonna throw it over to Fawn.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to agree with a lot of the stances that Lonerbox had, actually, just in general. That the point is that we have, well, America has left Afghanistan, and now we have to deal with the fallout. And I believe that the next step is welcoming refugees into countries that can take them. Dylan's not back, but I'm gonna pass it over to Lonerbox. Yo.
Yeah, I'll just take it over. Yeah, fucking. Oh God, there's. I thought I'd prepared a little bit for this, and then we have to discuss the concept of making Afghanistan a
Oh yeah,
state of the
sorry.
United States.
Stay out of New Zealand, by the way.
Stay out of Scotland as well. But yeah, fucking like I don't know, like more than half of people in Afghanistan live on less than $1.90 a day. So you especially making a state with no like welfare, no Marshall Plan. Fucking hell. But we know we know what happens when we try to get involved. Like Afghanistan was once one of the most secular Muslim countries in the world. And like you can see if you've seen the photos in the 1950s of the women in skirts going over to study at college and everything, like there was a trajectory there. They had a very pro-Western king, an independent leftist government that was independent of the Soviet Union. That process was, after all, interrupted first by the Soviet Union, then by the Taliban, who were, of course, funded by the United States. Same thing happened in Iran, very progressive government, very forward-thinking women's rights, taking forced labor rights away from the Islamic nobility, democratically elected, etc., etc. Then the CIA in Britain gets involved and gets rid of him, puts in the Shah, paves the way for the fundamentalist state that followed. We can't fix these countries so far. Like it's been 100, 200, 300 years of trying to do it, and I don't really know if improved military tactics are going to be like the silver bullet to turn that all around. The best we can do now is accept refugees. I looked at the numbers for the UK. They want to bring in 5,000 in the next 12 months. That's 8 per constituency. It's fucking pathetic. Do better.
Yeah, but as a student of Alexandra, I would
Hey,
expect you to know better.
Wait. CTV.
I know.
Behave yourself.
You broke a rule.
I know. It's just he
I
claimed
don't
to
know
be
how
a student
I
of
don't know how-
Alexander, you know?
Those are-
Like,
I don't know how that I know sounded. Anyway, we're gonna throw it over to Shark.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I feel like this. I don't know. I feel like this entire time we got pretty stun locked. It seemed like a great movie story to talk about making Afghanistan into a state. It seemed like a fun movie story to talk about giving 20 guys a couple guns and send them back on their way. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've tried it so many. I feel like we've tried it so many times, and it's ended up with so many people being losing their lives and having their rights taken away. At this point, like I still am going to stick by that. One of the most fruitful things that we could possibly do is talk about as many people that we can take back, supporting all the people who helped us, and supporting the families who did and who didn't.
Lonnie made this
They don't
meme, by the
deserve to
way.
live in that country. In that way, they don't deserve to have their rights taken away or be killed. I think that we should be taking in as many as humanly possible and be pushing our sister nations to be doing the same.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw it over to T-Jump.
Yeah, I think it's a really hard issue. I'm not really a fan of conquering and making everybody a state. Not a great idea. And I mean, I think Counterpoints has a realistic suggestion that we technically use, but it has some pretty huge faults because every time we seem to do it, it leads to terrorist organizations taking over a country. I think
Yeah, that's
that's
fine.
actually taking a more serious military campaign that has, with the goal of like working with everyone to actually build up a country, and in every ways, economically and with the military and with political and religious connections, would be a better strategy if we were going to do it. But at the same time, I think it's usually a good idea to focus here at home and try to fix our problems first. And once we get that sorted out, then we can start trying to help the other countries figure stuff out.
Xanderhal, you better send me that meme immediately, and we're moving over to Xander.
Oh yeah, I got lots of memes for you. People have been making them. I'll keep them coming too. Yeah, so this is a topic that just kind of depresses the shit out of me, because there was really no outcome here that didn't result in either politicians currently in charge, notably Biden, getting a ton of shit, and probably rightfully so to a degree, for staying and us prolonging our occupation there, or us leaving and more or less allowing the Taliban to take over. We had a pretty good idea that they'd take over. They just took over a lot quicker than we thought. There was really no good solution here. And it's sad. I mean, that's really all there can be said about it. I don't know what we can do from here as Twitch streamers or as a country, considering we seem to want nothing to do with anything in Afghanistan anymore, other than taking it refugees. That's anyone here who's against that. I mean, I disagree, but I mean, these people were living underneath our occupation for 20 years, and now we're just ditching them. Kind of feel shitty if we're not going to take them in.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to say to chat, hey, any donations and subs and everything would be appreciated. I missed CM Punk debuting after 2,766 days. Yes, I counted. Since his last appearance,
I think it's obvious that everybody knows what Friday night fucking means. Friday night means the Hippy Dippy fucking podcast. You know that, right? So if you're not already followed, and if you're not already fucking subscribed, then you should be to Dylan Burns TV, right? And if you feel so inclined, right, make your way over to Critically Thinking Veteran, where I facilitate the Wolfpack. Now, if you wouldn't mind, Dylan, for a moment, every single response seemed to respond to me. So if you wouldn't mind just this brief moment.
Okay, CTV, during the intro of the next topic, you can respond to this topic. That happens.
Well, I would like to be able to start the next topic off fresh. That
well,
way
I'll let you start it, but can I finish my promo?
Okay.
Thank you, CTV, for allowing me to run my show. So everybody, I would appreciate any donations, subs, or anything you could throw at the channel. It'd really help the channel out. It would allow me to produce more panels, more content, more everything that you guys come here to view. I'd appreciate that. I also want to buy a CM Punk t-shirt. Okay, so we're going to start the next topic. And the next topic has to do with trans-inclusive education in a bill that was passed in Scotland. We're doing international news. Wow. We're doing a story that's not in the United States, but has implications for the United States. So let me just read a little bit of the article since it's international news. Nobody cares. So I'm going to read a little bit about this legislation for everybody in chat, so they're on the same page as all these wonderful people who were given the article beforehand. And for all the people who are on this panel who didn't read and pretended to read and just didn't tell me. I know who you are. So I'm going to read this quick. There's a few lines here. In a 70-page document, Education Secretary, Scotland name, has set out how schools should respond to transgender pupils and ensure they are safe and included in and out of the classroom. The recommendations include not forcing a transgender pupil to use a specific toilet, trying to make social distancing events less gender specific, and using the name and pronouns requested by the child. It also provides guidance on how to identify and tackle transphobic bullying and suggests that primary school teachers should use books and resources which challenge gender stereotypes and include transgender people. The guidance also explains that teachers should not tell children who say they are transgender that it's just a phase, and add, if a young person comes out to you, it's also important not to deny their identity or overly question their understanding of their gender identity. Teachers can, of course, ask reflective questions that allow young people to express themselves, explore their gender identity, and identify their needs. There's a lot more here that if you want access to the article, I'll put it in chat. And for those in the discussion, of course, you had time to read it beforehand. So basically, the question is, what do you think of this? And should something similar be done in the United States for all the Americans here? Or New Zealand, for example, for New Zealanders, if that's a real location and not just Australia's Hawaii. Okay, so we're going to throw it around the room. I'm going to start with CTV as requested, then Loner because he's Scottish.
Well, I think that it is very clear at this moment, especially from the last topic, that the left is rank with fear. They allow fear to overtake every single one of their actions to the degree that they would shy away from the idea of bringing in other nations around the world, which is why I say that they are absolutely useless when it comes to any kind of advocation. They would allow fear to take over their entire fucking being, right? Unless, and surprise, surprise, it's an issue that comes to sex, just like the first topic, right?
so
This
confused
issue
right
in
now.
Scotland, I think, has a lot to do with the left's perceived mentality of sexuality, right? You have administrators of the law attempting to take away the rights of parents in schools from deciding what is right for their child. Now, once a person reaches the age of adulthood, they can decide what is right for themselves. But until then, that's the responsibility of the parent, and
I'm gonna kill
definitely
myself.
not some government
Oh,
fucking
God.
institution telling parents what's right for their fucking kid. Period.
Can I go?
Okay, we're gonna now throw it over to Lonerbox, who is the. We're gonna throw it to him because he's Scottish.
Fuck, I'm sorry. No, my fucking sound keeps cutting out. Was it my go? Or
Yes. No, the other Scottish person on the panel.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, fuck. Okay. Just I guess for some as far as reading the article goes, first of all, I'm not scared of turning Afghanistan to a state. I don't know. It's just stupid. But yeah, like when it comes to the trans thing, like we already exclude parents from decisions that children make already. Like we do that with if a kid comes out
Alright,
as
Lonnie.
gay and they know the teacher knows that their kid is coming from an abusive or homophobic household, it's actually legally questionable for them to tell the parent because they'd be putting the child at risk of harm. It's the same with the trans thing. In the legislation, or not, it's not in legislation, it's guidelines. In the guidelines, one of the things that is actually most encouraged is getting the parents involved in the conversation as quickly as possible. It's just the fact that they're not obligated to tell the parents if they think a child asking to change their pronouns at home might result in them getting harmed by their parents. So also, I don't know, like I noticed this happen when it went out on Twitter as well. If a child asking to change their pronouns makes you think about sex, you mentioned sex, that's probably a you problem. I'll just leave it there for now.
Okay. I'm going to now throw it to Xanderhal.
Oh, yippee. Yeah, this entire change up in how schooling is going to be done is just helping mold people's education around what's accurate. It has been found that trans people are valid. This is just a scientific fact. It is true. Their identities are valid. Sex and gender are not the same thing. Transitioning helps trans people. Accepting trans people helps trans people, and it doesn't hurt anybody else, okay? Sex and gender, not the same thing. These are things that are going to be taught. It's just accurate. I don't think that they're taking away the ability for parents to teach their kids what they want to. I just think that just because a family may think the earth is flat doesn't mean that family has the right to demand the school teach that to everybody, okay? It's the school's job to teach what is correct, and trans people are valid. That is simply just factually correct.
Okay, we're gonna now throw it over to T-Jump.
Yeah, I think that there definitely isn't enough research to know that if what kids are feeling actually corresponds to reality or if it's just a phase due to psychological disposition. So I don't think there's any evidence that kids can actually have trans identities and have it be legitimate. And,
Yes, there is.
So I don't think it's...
Zan, let me be clear.
So-
you can
so no.
you can go back and forth later, Zan, but during this period, people just say what they think.
So because
sorry.
their identities are still developing, there is no such thing as a defined identity in that way. It's just not a thing. That's why kids aren't allowed to make decisions. That's why they don't have the ability to vote or do drugs. They don't have the intellectual capability to consent to those things. And so it's purely kind of just made up by psychological studies. It's not a real thing at all. There's no actual evidence to support it. And so, but I don't think we should like
Made up by
force people
psychological
to accept
studies.
identities. It's not really a reason to do anything. Like treat them as a human being for sure. Forcing people to accept what you say, not so much. I think we should definitely keep the politics out of the classroom as much as possible in those contexts.
Now I'm gonna throw it over to Shark.
Lucky Shark.
Sure. So in these guidelines, it seems like they touch on basically everything that we would need. It touches on how to deal with the trans kids and their teacher and the parents as well. They recommend a lot of great reading to touch on. They touch on even bathrooms and when it comes to specific privacy. issues, and even the people who may feel like weirdly uncomfortable around like trans people, and trans people who feel uncomfortable around it's just people who may look down on them for being who they are. They go over so many great things, and this is, I think, an exemplary model for how we should move forward into the future, on how we should be taking care of trans kids, taking care of the parent, teacher, and child to teacher relationships in almost every way that I can think of. Obviously, there's nothing that's basically perfect. Obviously, there's things that can be touched on there, but they seem to have really listened and to really care about these kids a lot more than we do when we have so many states passing laws to try to basically try to erase trans people's identities and stop doctors and parents and children from being able to make the decisions that they think is going to make them the healthiest.
Yeah, but the reality of the situation is that we're
Hey, CTV. Intros.
Oh,
Fawn?
my bad.
First of all, I think it's incredibly ironic to call the left like full of fear. It's just there is so much fear mongering on the right.
She's making
that's like
a good
what
point.
they're based off of.
But I don't know how else she'll word
So
it.
it makes me laugh. I don't see how people can see this as a negative thing. It to me, it basically seems like an anti-bullying step and inclusion and education. Like, there are trans people in the world. They exist. I don't think it's a good idea to just pretend like they don't exist, so there should be no education about it. I don't like the intense like gender stereotypes of that some schools do when it comes to like dances and stuff, where it's like, oh, you can only take a partner of like the opposite gender. I know that was in my school. You couldn't bring a partner to like basically our version of prom who was like not the opposite gender to you. And yeah, it's basically like anti-bullying is like a lot of kids who are gay or trans or just different and might still be dealing with their identities because they're kids, they're still trying to figure it out. They do get bullied. And I think that trying to get teachers on side to understand when that happens and what to do about it is a good thing. I don't think it's like forcing them to do anything. It's just like, hey, that's not very nice. It's teaching teachers language that might be harmful in their classrooms that they might not have fully understood before. And yeah, I don't understand how it's a bad thing.
Okay, next we're gonna throw it over to Nacho.
Yeah. So, as someone who's like been in the school system has had to deal with some of this stuff, as well as like, I don't know, something that you just said. You guys weren't able to like bring someone of the opposite gender. That's like really strange to me because I grew up in a pretty red state, and like that. I mean, maybe it was just that was when the times were changing, but it didn't really matter for my school. So I don't know if it's like some examples or something, but it's hard for me because like so I've been in I come and help my school teach band every year, so I like teach music to the kids, to the low brass section, and I've had to deal with kids that are like transitioning, and then like I've even seen kids go like I'm trans, I like call me this name and do like she her or like vice versa, like he him, and then go back like in the next like year or two. And so and I'm not allowed to tell the parents that like what's going on, you know what I mean? Like we basically aren't allowed to, like there were like 3 or 4 students that we had to deal with that we weren't allowed to tell their parents had no idea. So when they went home and their parents picked them up, like their parents are calling them one name and like we're calling them a different, so we have to like be careful because when we're like saying bye to them, we have to be like bye like you and not like leak to their parents because we don't want to like rat on them. So it puts educators in a really like precarious position, I think, to not be able to tell parents. And I don't know if this is part of this, to be honest. I didn't get a chance to read all of this, But I'm also not 100% against like having a safe space or having students be able to go to like a counselor or be able to go to somewhere where they can
Oilers?
be like
True.
accepted or something. So this is a really tough one for me, I think.
Okay, now we're gonna throw it over to Connor.
All right. So I have a lot of right-wing chud sympathies, but I'm not religious, so it's actually pretty easy for me to follow kind of where science goes. It seems like trans folk are real, non-binary folk are real. There's a decent amount of evidence to support all this kind of stuff, and on top of that, there's some stuff that we'll get into the general with that I think is important. So hopefully we can all be chill and actually have a really good conversation about it. I think the problem is going to be balancing the needs and desires of multiple invested parties who all have certain rights. What I mean by that is, I mean the religious rights of families, basically parents who are either Muslim or Christian who don't believe in the LGBTQ existence, I guess, along with the right of the child to self-express, along with the right of the school to focus on education. One of the things that I heard that I would reject is that you don't want to politicize school. Schools are inherently political. By that, I mean that we are necessarily educating the next generation on how to conduct themselves in society and giving them the skills in order to survive in that society. Whether you want a more conservative education program or a more liberal or progressive education program is inherently political. Unfortunately, I feel like the right has ceded a lot of ground to the left when it comes to education. And that's unfortunate, particularly when it comes to economics, personal virtues, all that kind of stuff. I think there's plenty to be talked about, but you also have to understand that we live in a liberal democratic society and we're not all the same, and different people have different goals and different needs. So I'm happy to get into it in the open. Hopefully that wasn't too big, but looking forward to it.
Okay, now the discussion is open. I did try to book some trans creators for this event, but the scheduling mixed up and we weren't able to make that happen. So I just wanted to say it out loud before, like, the obvious question is asked after the fact.
Okay, so then
Wonderful. You guys can begin. Anybody can grab this.
Okay, so then the reality here is from the start, right? Especially when I already laid out that the left wants to argue from sex from the start, right? This is the question that I have for the left, right? Is that how is it that you define masculinity and femininity, right? Do you define that by way of the ways that adults act or the ways that kids act? Well, obviously the answer is by the way of adults because you have a lot more experience with it. So why is it that you would think that your job is to radically force this ideology upon children who are still new to the world and trying to figure it out for themselves?
I'll answer your
But we
question, if you
give-
don't mind.
So
but we-
Loner, then Fawn. Would that be possible, Fawn?
No problem.
So the thing you, CTV and T-Jump both mentioned, like gender ideology and the imposition of it, like whether you actually kind of
I'm
said it
getting
yourself,
there, Cancer
whether you
Cat.
like it
Looking
or
for an
not,
opening.
like, gender ideology exists in schools. I grew up in the 90s and my school was a fucking abuse factory of gender ideology. The guys are all practicing one-upmanship. The fucking women have been pressured to be like a fucking sex queen from the age of like 11 to like 111. There's a fat girl who hates herself. She's really jealous of the skinny girl next to her who secretly has an eating disorder.
You've
There's one
mentioned only
fucking
sex so
nerdy.
far.
Wait. We
There's
gotta let him
one
finish.
there's one fucking
I'm just
nerdy
being
kid
clear.
who's fantasizing about shooting the place up because they lost a fight 3 years ago and they couldn't handle the humiliation. There's a trans kid who's too scared to come out at all because the only representation they have is like the bad guy and girl in Ace Ventura, right? So yeah, gender ideology always exists. It's just leading to the second point.
Step
T-Jump,
back, like,
I'm not
4/5
finished.
of what
Hey.
you just
Yeah,
named
wait,
was sex
come on,
and not
come
gender.
on. CTV.
He's got to be
I
truthful,
wanna no. We'll
Dylan.
see.
And I just
Well,
get
you
like a
can then-
recording
you
of
can
fucking
expose
Fred
his
Durst
lies
yodeling
right
in my
after.
ear instead.
We gotta let him finish. I'm not gonna say it again. Loner.
You have a very impressive falsetto, but it's very tiring. But yeah, treat them like a human, T-Jump. That was the second thing. Well, yeah, that's the point. The function of the education system is to give kids the best
I'm gonna do it,
educational
chat.
experience
Don't worry.
they can possibly have. And study after study shows that when trans youths get their identities affirmed, i.e. their pronouns accepted, pronouns are not permanent, they don't have to be, But the result is they experience significantly higher rates of life satisfaction, higher self-esteem. Their mental
It's got to be
they
smooth,
more
Lonnie,
likely to say their mental health is good or excellent, less likely to suffer depression, less likely to face housing problems. Like half of trans youths who don't have parents from the support from their parents have housing problems when
Thank
they're
you, Emma
still children.
Bema. I'll get to that in a minute.
Another interesting stat was when they had their identities validated, their pronouns, 4% attempted suicide compared to 50% when they didn't have that support. This is a massive shift, and there's no evidence that it hurts cis kids. And I guess, like, I mean, what, as far as treat them like a human, T-Jump, maybe I'll just ask you specifically, like, what exactly is the problem there?
It's the amount of work. So if you're asking, I have to cater to remember everything they say on a whim. And if I don't happen to remember the correct pronoun, I get convicted or lambasted because I didn't take the time to actually remember what they said. That's the problem.
Please let me in.
Is that
So the
not
guideline says,
treating
all
them
right,
like a
first of all,
person?
You gotta let Loner respond. There was a question from Loner.
First of all, I misgender people all the time by mistake. I have a partner who I misgender all the time because they're agender. Like, good, fuck it. You apologize and you move on. The guidelines incidentally say
Can you
exactly
cite
the same.
sources? I just want to know that before you
The
can you
guidelines-
cite sources.
Yes, I can. The guidelines incidentally say exactly the same thing. They say if you misgender, move on. I don't know if there's like a slippery slope fallacy going on here that some little whippersnapper is going to change their pronouns every 8 minutes and the teacher's going to fucking get fired because they fucked up. Like, it's not that they have a conversation. Sorry, she, her, not he, him. Okay, fine. Might fuck up a couple of times, but we'll get used to it. Is that work to you to reduce someone's suicidality by like from 57% to 4%? Is that too much work for you?
Well, reduce my suicidality if you gave me $1 million. Are you obligated to give me $1 million?
There's no evidence that getting $1 million reduces.
You do not understand that when
people acclimatize.
Making you happy is not
You
the
said
job
you're
of other
treating them
people.
like a person.
There's no
And-
epidemic of suicide amongst
like
people who are
basic.
not millionaires.
It doesn't matter. The fact that you could be suicidal because you're unhappy doesn't mean that I'm obligated to make you happy by doing anything you want. That's not how
Teachers
it
are
works.
obligated to give kids the best educational experience they can.
Best education does not mean make you happy. Those are not the same thing.
But you get educated better if you're happy. Like if your mental health is
That's
fucked, you
nice.
get a
don't
worse
give
education.
Kids candy and ice cream every day. Like we could
So
make
the
kids
trade-off.
happier,
Okay,
yes.
okay. So the trade-off isn't worth it.
Forcing people to have to do all of the
Not
work
forcing,
to make someone
it's
else
just-
happy. Yeah, forcing by law. That's what laws do. So yeah,
It's
like
not a
you're
law, it's a
not
guideline.
obligated. It's a law. That's what we're talking about. A law being passed.
Let me in.
So the pronouns, it's just not worth. It's not worth the gains.
Infringing on other people's rights and forcing them to do things that they shouldn't be forced to do. No, you should not do that to make people happy. That's bad.
Is letting a group increase its suicidality by that amount not an infringement of human rights? Are
No,
are trans rights not human rights?
Again, suicidality here is irrelevant because if other people doing things that make you happy makes you less suicidal, isn't a problem because they aren't obligated to do so. Whether or not that increases your suicidality is irrelevant. The question is should they be obligated to have to do whatever you're saying or not? And the answer is no, regardless of what the impact it has on you. Like if somebody would be less suicidal if I gave them all of my money, I'm not obligated to give them all of my money, regardless of how much more or less suicidal they are.
We're talking
the
about
amount of
basic
suicidality is
respect,
irrelevant.
though.
If a teacher
Like
just
the
wants to call their
basis-
like,
Can I please get in? Can I please respond?
Okay, I want Loner to be able to finish that point they were making. Then we're gonna go around the room to everybody else who wants to talk and hasn't talked yet, like Zan and Fawn, etc.
I mean, if a teacher wants to fucking
Connor,
call
what are
their
you
kids like,
I was pointing at Fawn because you said she was next after Loner, dude.
Okay,
Just trying to be polite.
got it.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Beastie.
it was gonna be Loner, Fawn, then Zan. Sorry, I forgot about the order.
I don't know, if a teacher like wants to fucking bully their kids and like humiliate them or call them shits and all that, like because it just suits
We
them.
already have laws against
It's
that.
okay to it's okay to exactly because those things are not beneficial to the educational health of the child. They make things worse. Misgendering
Calling
children
you he
deliberately.
instead of she and trying to memorize that is not bullying.
Find that
But
out
it makes
for me,
things
Cancer
worse.
Cat.
It is
If you have
bullying. It makes
particular
things
No,
worse. for them.
bullying is like deliberately being mean to someone. If you're not deliberately being mean to someone,
Yeah, by,
which is, there's already
by
laws against that.
deliberately not saying their correct pronouns.
Yes, so by deliberately being an asshole is bad. We already have laws against that.
Is calling someone names bullying then? Like consistently. If a teacher constantly calls them names. What's the difference
If it's
between
intentional, yes. If it's not intentional, no. If, like,
yeah,
if
and
they
the
don't consider it a
misgendering
name,
if it's intentional.
not-
And the
it's not.
misgendering if it's intentional.
No. So like
Why?
I don't consider he an insult. So if I call someone he, I'm not like insulting someone. Whether they interpret it as an insult is
I don't.
irrelevant.
Okay, the teacher doesn't consider little shit an insult.
Okay, well then
Yeah.
we already have laws against that. So
Are you
he
signing
he
those
objected.
No.
certificates?
What?
I'm
Wait,
saying-
no,
wait,
Oh my god, this is such a stupid derail. This is such a
Wait,
stupid
you were
derail. It
gonna
doesn't
cite
matter that
sources.
it's
I
mean.
just want the
CDD.
sources. That's what I want.
Fact.
The source,
my
the
turn.
source you
Still my
cited
turn.
was the 70-page document.
Where's
Still my
this
turn.
70-page document? I
It's
haven't
in the
seen it.
article. It's in the article in the Discord. You can click it, and on there you can click the 70-page document and go through it.
The
So-
positive
so-
impact of
Wait,
affirmation.
Wait,
in the
can I respond?
2012
CDD, stop.
Wait. I'm moving over. We gotta move to Fawn.
I don't see it in the
Fawn-
private group chat.
It's
Whoa,
in.
whoa.
It's in the description on the Epic Rap Battles video.
Right.
I just want to respond because I was
No.
Fucking
Okay.
made up.
I am done. I am done. Okay, we're okay. We're stopping this for a moment. CTV, I will send you the source myself. I want to move over to Fawn, then Zan, then Connor.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. A little bit of intellectual honesty. I like it.
Okay.
Oh my god. I first wanted to say that my gender identity is actually that I am agender. I do not mind what pronouns you use. Of like the big three, you can use she, her, they, them, he, him. I don't mind. So you're talking about like trans creators. I don't know if I would necessarily like. I guess technically I am trans, but like I haven't transitioned, so I don't feel super comfortable using that phrase. But I mean, you're still valid trans person if you haven't transitioned. But yeah, all of that sort of stuff. So I have dealt with changing pronouns before, and like I can talk on that personal anecdotally, but I don't think that necessarily will help. I know that it was something strange that CTV said about basing your masculinity and femininity off what adults do, but we put that onto children all the time. Like we put those things onto children. If the child likes pink and skirts and playing with dolls, those things are considered feminine. And if they like rolling around in mud, kicking a ball and playing with trucks, those things are considered masculine. But anyone can do those things, just like anyone can wear a skirt. It's technically those pieces of clothing don't have like a gender or a sex, but there are things that we consider inherently masculine or feminine, whether the person doing those things is a man or a woman or not. That's the difference. Like someone who is either identifies as a man or woman, men and women can be masculine or feminine while still being a man or a woman. And oh my god, there's so much to say on this shit. So I'm gonna say Xander go because I feel like I've lost half my points now. There's
Well,
so
I mean,
much to say.
I actually had something to say
Thank you,
in
Fawn.
response, right? I mean, would you consider, Fawn, cooking to be masculine or feminine?
Neither.
Neither.
Okay.
So you specifically only think that playing with trucks, right, would be considered
I'm saying that
masculine.
we put those expectations on children. Like you think that if a child plays with a truck, that's a more masculine thing to do than a more feminine thing to do.
Why
Just saying
would
it's a
you-
social
Well,
construct.
I guess maybe the thing
Yeah,
that I would have to
socially.
ask-
Yeah.
I think maybe the thing that I would ask myself, considering that there are some other female drivers out there in the world, right? Like Danica Patrick, for one, that drove a NASCAR, right? Why is it that you in your mind would put that into that category versus like assuming that that's how everybody else would view the thing? Why can't it just be that the child likes playing with trucks or likes
No,
playing
that's
with
what
cars?
I agree.
Why-
I don't
Right.
think that it needs to be gender specific, but I'm saying socially people would
But that's
say
an assumption that you have. That's an assumption that you
I'm
have
pretty sure that's a
specifically.
general
No, it's
assumption
not one
that
that
little
I fucking
that
hold.
you
It's not
well-
one that I fucking hold. Then I can only assume
Okay.
that it's something that is in your mind as an association. So I asked a very specific
nope.
question as to
Okay,
why
okay,
that's an
okay.
association in your mind.
We got okay. Fawn will answer. Then we got to move on to Zan.
it's not an association of mine. Like I don't care, but I literally never said I think that if a child plays with trucks, it is more that's more masculine. I think anyone can, but I'm saying that you are saying that the way that we view masculinity and femininity is based on adults, but we very easily put those like gender expectations on children
I think the
just
problem
as
is the word
much.
with expectations that you're using, because I think that most people just, as soon as a child picks up a truck and starts playing with a truck, it's not an expectation that gets put on them. It's just like
But they buy boys trucks more than they will buy girls.
But it's a
trucks.
recognition more so than an expectation, right?
A recognition of what?
A recognition of what the kid likes to play with.
Okay, so we're gonna move over to Zan now. Gotta move over to Zan because I want to keep the conversation moving.
Yeah, I don't know why we derailed for like 20 minutes there about whether or not the teachers need to be nice to the trans kids or whatever before. The initiative being taken here is for the school educations to become more fact-based. That's always what you want. You don't want ideology or politics getting in the way of schools teaching what is backed up by science and fact, okay? That's how we went so long without schools teaching about climate change and about how the Civil War was over slavery here in America. You don't want politics muddying the water there. And, as I said, I can back this up with any studies that you want. I've got plenty. Trans people are valid. Their identities are valid. It is intrinsically good for them to be recognized as the gender they identify with. And not only that, but there is psychological and sociological evidence that suggests that the ideas that many conservatives have about sex and gender just aren't true. Sex and gender aren't the same thing. Gender expectations are socially constructed by us over decades and centuries of time. We're not talking about being nice here. We're talking about just being correct. If you're against that, then you're transphobic and you're wrong, but that's on you, I guess.
And I
So
said
it's
that
nothing to
already,
do with
Xander,
being
but like,
correct. This isn't
no.
education. We're not adding in pronouns to education. That's not part of the thing. So this is just like saying that we're going to add one of the most common sets of words in the English language and say, well, now these words can be insults sometimes, which is just dumb. It's just a dumb thing.
No.
To say.
It's how about
It's
how
not
you
an
use
insult.
them.
It's more so if I called you, if I for every single, if I every day.
Can we source that in the article or document also for chat?
Still haven't seen the source.
Well, it's in the chat. It's in the chat right now.
Page 38. The studies below.
Jesus
Well, Loner
Christ.
found it before I did, so.
You said D.
You,
Wow.
Xander, what you
You
were
can
saying
choose-
about Xander, what you were saying about yeah, I agree. Like, but obviously T-Jump doesn't think that the research is valid, so we have to go a different way. T-Jump, you were so close. T-Jump.
Hold on. If I gotta download
Okay,
a file,
wait.
You can talk about
Wait, okay, stop. It's a 70-page document. If you want
said page
CTV,
38.
I will go through the document myself, take an image of the page, and send it to you.
Where's the sources? I don't want to
We have
read.
the source. It was something that's in
you want
there.
me to
I
read?
checked
Is this it? Like
Fuck
we're
this
putting it into a
channel.
group chat from someone
Okay.
that I don't personally know. If Dylan had
Oh,
sent
yeah.
me that link in,
Look.
in a personal DM, I wouldn't even question it because I know
trust it. I trust the thing. If it gives you a virus, I'll buy you a new computer. Please, can we move the fuck
Okay,
on?
well, as long as we
Okay,
got that, here we go.
T-Jump.
What?
Wasn't it you talking with somebody
No,
else? If not, fine. Connor then. Connor.
It was. I think it was Loner or Xander.
Okay,
was-
Loner, finish. Fuck.
Yeah,
Then-
because T-Jump, you were so close because I was asking you to justify why was it okay to violate a teacher's rights to verbally abuse their kids, the students, and you said it's already the law. Now, appealing to something that already exists is a fallacy. That does not justify why.
Can I clarify that
it's
for a second?
Okay, please.
So I'm saying we have laws that make it so teachers can't bully their kids, and then you said, well, is calling a kid a shithole or something bullying? Yes, it is, because shithole is not the same as a pronoun. Pronouns, there's no history of pronouns being insults. They're not insults. This is just a new thing that people have made up. And no one is obligated to listen to this new ideology, this new use of language. Like if I don't have
Anything
your
can be used as an
wait,
insult in context.
Yes, it can.
Okay, so this is
But
just a
wait,
fundamental
let me finish. So if in my language it's not an insult, I'm not obligated to adopt your new language in order to
It's not
accommodate
new
your
language.
needs. It is, because
So that means every insult's okay because if it's in the eye
It's
of the
not new
beholder, that's
language.
okay.
Yeah, like if there is a language
Like you
in
said,
which
pronouns used all the
let me-
time.
Let me finish. So if there is a language in which their
I
entire
want to
history
ask
uses the word shit
T
as
Jump if
not
he'd
an
ever
insult
date a
and it's
girl with
compliment,
pronouns.
then yeah, they're
I
not
want to see if he'd
obligated to
say
listen
no.
to your rules because they use it in a different way.
Oh,
The fact
God.
that we have a history of word usage in which pronouns are not insults, and you're
The language
trying
is
to
changing
change
every
this.
day. This is my subject.
Okay,
Language
yeah.
is changes
First of all,
every single
It's
day.
it's not
First of all,
so,
misgendering has been an
wait,
insult for a
after
very
this, we're
long
gonna
time.
move
They just
on.
haven't
Yeah.
had.
wait. So
Wait, T Jump, I have a question. I have a
still
question.
haven't
Would
gotten
you...
to
I
finish.
said once Loner was gonna finish, they were gonna move on.
All right.
Okay, Loner.
I tried.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
sorry. I
first
can't
of
do
all,
good memes on
misgendering
this
has
show.
been an insult for a very
There's
long time.
never
It's just
any
that trans
openings
people
for
were
it.
never given a voice until very recently. That's why they're just getting louder now.
Could've been a good
As
meme.
for, again, like, you haven't justified why calling a kid a shit is wrong, but misgendering them is okay, because the only justification against both of them is that they cause harm. Whether if you can argue they didn't cause harm 10 years ago, fine. They do cause harm now. The kids who suffer the mental health consequences of getting misgendered are not inventing the ideology. They're a bit young to invent an ideology. It's just what they feel because they exist. Your justification is exactly the same.
Okay,
No,
can I?
my justification was that the fact that those words are known to cause harm to a majority of people and are used in that way and have been used that way in society in a long way. The fact that you've made up a new word that causes you harm does not mean anybody is obligated
What
to do it.
about
I could
calling
say
someone a
We've
girl?
just appealed to.
interrupting. So I could just say I'm caused harm by the word potato. Now, even if that's demonstrably correct, and you can go into my neurology and see, I have high function autism, so this word causes me harm. Does that mean that the word potato is now an insult and anybody who uses it is now evil? No. You can't legislate against the word potato now just because it causes me harm. It's not the case that simply because it happens to cause harm that you can then demonstrably say this word is now off limits in certain usages. That's not the case. So in language, these pronouns are just commonly used words, and then legislating against these commonly used words because it hurts you is wrong. You can't legislate other people's usage of how they were taught language because it happens to harm you subjectively. No, it's not how it works.
Please, God, let me fucking get in
What?
here.
Okay,
I got
wait,
you,
wait.
Fawn. I was.
Wait. I just wanted to say, Connor, thank you for being so patient. Go on.
Love you, buddy. All right. Anyways, so Fawn, don't worry. I'm gonna nod to your argument, which I think is perfectly fucking valid, which is basically we've used girl as an insult. When you call somebody who is traditionally masculine a girl, then we use I use that as a fucking insult. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I beat somebody up over that. So anyways, gender ideology always exists. That's a really fucking strong point, because the truth is that we were brought up with the gender binary. There's men, there's women. That's all there fucking is.
Connor
No in
points is so
between.
much
People
more
can't
reasonable
transition.
than
It's
every
all,
other
rooted
conservative
in
here.
kind of like a religious concept. On top of that, basically, gender and sex are the same thing. Well, there are plenty of things. I think this is a stronger argument that I would argue, this is probably not left-wing enough for all the lefties, but I would argue that gender is an outgrowth of sex, where endocrinological and basically biological functions can influence gendered things. So for instance, masculinity, testosterone, aggression, all that kind of stuff, but it's not a hard and fast rule. There's feminine men, there's masculine women, people have varied interests, all that kind of shit. That's where this all gets complex, is because there's actually a whole bunch of nuance. So, Xander, I kind of resent you using the words politics versus fact-based. We need to stop it. If the left wing is going to say that all of the facts that you choose to present, CTV, I'm not yielding the time. Stop waving at me.
Waving to you, assholes. Waving to Dylan. I'm waiting for an acknowledgement.
Okay. Well, you're being really distracting right now.
Okay.
So, all right. So basically, politics versus fact-based. If we're going to come out and we're going to say, hey, there's no such thing as like an objective narrative, the facts that you choose to present to people are basically building your narrative, then don't come at me with subjective shit. You're using facts in order to build a narrative, okay? Finally, the main concern that I actually sympathize with T-Jump on, because this is the same thing that Jordan Peterson was very concerned with, that I think is a worthy consideration. Don't worry, I'm a Jordan Peterson fan. I know that makes you cringe. Don't worry about it. So is linguistic compulsion. That's the main thing that Americans or Canadians are worried about, is basically the state saying that you have to use a certain set of words under threat of arrest, fines, all that kind of stuff. That's the main thing that people are concerned about. But that's not the fucking, like, what I would appeal to while still being concerned about linguistic compulsion is the fact that like here's the fucking thing. I don't like neo pronouns, but he, her, she, or wait, I'm sorry, she, her, they, them, and he, him. They, them is not fucking hard. As a matter of fact, if you pay attention to your linguistic fucking usage, you probably use they to refer to singular men and singular women all the fucking time, and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So while I think fucking neo pronouns is probably like a harder thing, like if a fucking cop shows up and he points a gun at me and he's like, hey, you got to use these every fucking time that somebody tells you to, or else we're going to fucking put you in, hate crime jail. That's a fucking problem for me. But if the cultural push is to say, hey, it's a little bit more complicated than we thought, he, him, she, her, they, them, that's not too much of an ask, particularly for a fucking educator whose literal day to day is interacting with young people who have different identities. I'll leave it there.
Okay, so I'm on a metaphorical high right now because of CM Punk. I'm sorry. Okay, we're gonna throw it over to Lonerbox. And wait, no, I just saw Shark, and Shark never raises his hand, so I have to give it to Shark.
I do
no
raise
matter-
my hand. I just usually do it like this or like this. So
Yeah,
I may have to do
Shark,
like this.
Shark, can I say
This was-
from now on do it like this? Because if you're going like this, like I don't know what that is, man. Like
But I
Sure.
was going to answer
I don't know if you
everybody's
just any
question
number
from the
one.
No,
very
I
beginning of the show.
understand. I'm sorry.
Okay, Shark. I just haven't heard anything from Shark yet, so I have to give it to Shark. Shark.
Sure. So I think it's really ridiculous to be like, oh, we've never used this before, we've never done it before, so we shouldn't do it now. It's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like if you like live your life under a rock, or you live your life this way or that way, and then all of a sudden things feel different to you, like I'm sorry. We move on. If you just feel like you don't want to, I mean, get fucked, loser. I'm sorry. That's just like how the world works sometimes. We already have a compulsion with how you use words. We have a thing that's called disturbing the peace. If you walk outside and start screeching like slurs at people, the cops are going to show up and tell you to stop. If you don't stop, you probably are going to get arrested or something. Like that's just like kind of how it works. We have a set usage for how we use some words. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. They're like, we use these words like this sometimes a lot. And it's true. We have like called people who are typically like masculine, that's an insult to call them a girl. I swear, like if you walk into a classroom and the teacher starts calling all the like cis guys she, and say that they look very pretty today, they're probably all going to get very upset. You know why? Because that's insulting. It just is.
Mhm.
Now we can talk about whether it should or shouldn't be, but it is. If you go to go up to a bunch of girls and you try to say that they're like masculine, or girls get this all the time, they're like, you look like your dad. That's probably insulting sometimes. All right. And that's okay. No one's saying that you need to be thrown in jail for it. We're talking about how you interact with kids and how we run our schools. Sorry, schools are going to be like a little bit stricter sometimes. I think that's a good thing, because this is a learning environment where we want kids to learn.
Okay. Can I
Okay.
actually just, sorry.
Yeah, Connor, you can go.
Yeah, so I talked for a while, but I want to give some like more. I want to give some. Sorry,
CTV, you
excuse
can
me.
go
You've been,
next.
you yelled a lot. So, anyways, so the fucking point being, I want to give some right wing credence to some right
It's
wing.
only because I'm entertaining.
I know, but basically here's the more right wing stuff.
to make it true.
Okay.
Okay, Connor, please.
Yes, here's the things that are more like right wing enforceable. So basically, Fawn mentioned the fact that they were agender, and I think that's really interesting because basically I overheard a conversation recently in which people were talking about how the fact that like a lot of people who are third gender, agender, whatever, non-binary, they don't feel like they have a strong attachment to either like a man or woman, and that's part of the reason why they choose to be non-binary. But here's the fucking thing that I thought was really interesting that they said is the fact is most people don't have a strong attachment to their gender. They just do what the fuck they do. And on top of that, I literally didn't think about gender until 3 fucking years ago. I still liked fucking guns. I still liked fucking gasoline. I still like things exploding in action movies and all that kind of shit. And that's not all socially
I like
constructed.
those things
Here's
too.
the other thing that I'm going to push back on. Children are not blank slates. They're not tabula rasa. There are fucking endocrinological reasons why people do the things that they do. There are biological reasons why they do the things that they do. It's not purely biological and it's not purely socially constructed. But at the same time, like, the reason why I resent the lefty arguments that like,
still like
oh, well,
fucking
we need to
guns.
just divorce these concepts completely or whatever, is because they're not completely divorced for most people. There's some people that it's completely divorced, but for most people, there actually is like sex and gender are like gender roots out of sex. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I don't think there are too many people who would actually disagree with the point that like sex and gender are have some correlation with each other.
Correlation,
I
yeah.
mean, there's a reason why like 90 like over like 98 point something percent of people are like are cis. And I mean, I think even in the most like perfectly accepting society, the vast majority of people would probably be cis. Like that's more likely than not. I think it's okay to say like, hey, like these things aren't like connected in the same way you glue them together, but they're connected if they're like on like two things on two ends of a really long rope, where they can be extremely malleable, they can go to different places, but they're like connected in some way. And I don't think that's I really don't think that's too crazy, actually.
Can I blow your fucking minds for a second? So literally, this is what blew my fucking mind too. So Jordan Peterson, the biggest like transphobe of the past decade or whatever, literally had a fucking bone to pick over Bill C-16 or fucking compulsive language. I have that same fucking beef. But do you know how he describes gender? A bimodal distribution. Do you know who else describes gender that way? Literally fucking Vosh. So descriptively, they're fucking identical. So there's a lot more common ground on understanding. The part that gets like really hung up is compelled language, because basically in the United States we very much value the First Amendment, so we don't like people telling us what we can say and what we can't say. And number two is basically religion. Religion is the other major factor here, where people are not willing to accept new modes of conceptualizing gender or sex or homosexuality or anything like that, is because they're rooted in previously pretty dogmatic and very like authority-based conceptions of the world that don't allow for these concepts to exist. The real question, I'll wrap it up. The real question is, how do we get cis kids, trans kids, religious parents, all to interact in the same system where we feel like we're guarding everybody's interests all at the same time, and we just don't have those answers yet.
Okay, so CTV, then Loner, then T-Jump.
Okay, there's no point.
Okay, so
there's
we've
no
got
point in
a
even
lot,
talking.
And I
I already raised my
mean,
hand. Yeah, I'm out.
a lot
I'm just gonna chill.
of ground to cover, right? So we started this conversation off with somehow, right? Girl is supposed to be assumed as an insult, right? Let's go ahead and make another correlation here real quick, right? There's an association to be called a pussy as being something negative as well, right? But the reality of the situation is that I wish, and I mean, good Lord, do I wish that I had a set of tires for my truck made out of pussy, because those things could take a beating and last forever, okay? That from the start. So I don't know where all these negative associations come from. They seem to have to be
Misogyny. That's where they come from.
They have to seem to be inside of people's minds, and for them to hold them, right? Because I only ever see positive things when it comes to the feminine body and
I want a
the
pussy
femininity
truck.
of a woman.
That'd be the real pussy wagon.
If I'm being absolutely
Hell yeah,
fucking
brother.
honest. Right? So from there, because frankly, it allows me to be what is me, my very masculine self. And when you ever put the most masculine together with the most feminine, it is some of the most beautiful scenes that you will ever make in your life. There is no doubt about that. So, like, from the start, Connor said a lot of stuff that seems to be along the same lines as basic arguments that I've made in the past, right? A lot of these issues when it comes to transgender comes down to the issue of Jurassic Park, right? You were asking about that at the beginning of the show, right? So this is
God, I'm gonna die.
to bring it up, right? Now, were the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park dinosaurs, or were they genetically mutated monsters that were brought on for entertainment purposes? They were not dinosaurs, right? And we knew this if we watched the movies. And in this case, just because you changed your body and you did not develop it naturally doesn't make you the same. It makes you similar, but not the same. So from there, that's where I do believe that is an adult decision for the adult to make, and we need to keep this shit out of the realm of children who are just coming into this world, trying to figure out their way through the fucking world and muddying the fucking waters whenever it comes to things that we should all be agreeing on, which is sex, which starts from birth, which is male and female, and the rest of this is clearly ideology that needs to be figured out along a person's fucking life.
Okay.
Wait, hold on, CTV. Sex isn't what you're assigned at birth. It's what I have with your mom.
Okay.
Wow. Hey, I'm glad
Now-
you're
Got
so
him.
funny, Xanderhal. No, I'm glad you're so funny. Do you see that urn sitting right there on my fireplace? My mom is inside that fucking urn. You
Yeah, and
see
he
how
fucked
bad
it.
your fucking joke was? You fucked
So
it
is
over, bro.
Xanderhal.
You
It's
fucked
like
it
one of
over.
those. It's like one of those
I
dipping
fucked the urn,
sticks.
So that means
That's
it's
not-
gotta be like the size of a pin, bro.
I didn't think he was gonna take
A
it there.
fucking pin.
Okay, we're gonna.
Yeah, it's
throw it
just
over to-
like- it's like
knew
using
that
those
my
candy
mom's kid
dipsticks.
was gonna come up.
Okay,
I
stop,
knew my
stop.
mom's kid.
It sounds, it
Okay,
sounds
we're throwing it over to Lonerbox. And Abe Bard, thanks for the subs.
The idea that, well, they're not the same, that's addressed, trans women and cis women, then we know they're not the same. Like, I'm yet to meet a trans person who's deluded about their chromosomes or their gonads or whatever the fuck. Like, it seems to be actually that the trans ideologists, whatever the fuck they, like, it seems to be that they actually have the most simple way of doing it, because I only ever see right-wingers get confused about what a transgender male and transgender female is and all that shit. But as for compelled speech, that's more interesting. We compel and criminalize mundane speech all the time. If I were to say, hey, Connor Points, you look good today, that's probably fine, right? But if I take that phrase, hey, you look good today, and send it to my ex once every 10 minutes for the rest of the day, I'll probably get the police at my door, rightly so. I've only said, hey, you look good today. So, and as for compelled speech, even with like the thing that you brought up earlier, TJ, I'm like, okay, hypothetically, if there is a kid who cries and cuts themselves every time a teacher calls them a potato, and that teacher, for some reason, proceeds to call that child a potato, yeah, that teacher should lose their job. What the fuck are you doing? I just don't understand. We compel and criminalize mundane speech all the time. I don't know why you're making an exception with pronouns when the reasoning is exactly the same.
Well,
Can
again,
I-
I already
can I
covered
address
that.
that?
We have laws for that. That has nothing to do with the pronouns. That if
Appealing
bullying
to the
doesn't
fact that a
mean
law already
specific
exists
word.
is not an argument.
It's
You're appealing
only,
to
it's
tradition.
only that
Yes,
you
it
don't
is.
see it
Like,
as bullying,
that-
though.
Banning the word potato would be wrong in that instance because the word
don't ban the
potato
word
isn't
potato.
the issue. The issue there is the bullying part where they're just completely maligning the student and bullying them by constantly aggressing them. The word doesn't matter. So there's
So what's
no
the difference?
comparison here.
They're
There's
saying
no
that the
comparison here to
pronoun.
the pronouns. There's no comparison here to the
Right,
pronouns. The
Wait,
pronouns
wait,
themselves
wait.
are not the issue. It's the bullying part, the deliberately attacking someone constantly. The word you use doesn't matter. So if the
By
legislation was
using
don't
the
do
wrong
that,
pronouns.
Okay, leftists.
Word-
Oh my
again,
god,
the
you're so
words
bad at
don't matter.
communicating. Can I ask a fucking question that I think is fucking gonna get us where we need to go?
Well-
T-jump. So hold on. T-jump. So for
on
instance,
the right, ain't he?
all right, hold the fuck up. All right, so let's say Blair White, bad, good example, bad example. Who gives a fuck? All right, presents very feminine. Most people would believe that she was a cis woman unless she literally said, "I'm a trans woman," right? So let's say that you have a student who looked like what was a boy at some point, but basically transitioned, presented as a woman, right?
That's
If
the
you're
TNT Rex
insistent
stands for.
on using he/him pronouns after they've transitioned and after you know that they're trying to go by she/her, is that not harassment at that point?
No.
That they're presenting and
Why not?
acting and all that kind of stuff.
this is the whole point here. So if someone was brought up in a culture where they were brought up being used the word he to refer to biological sex and she to refer to biological sex, and then some new culture comes along and said, no, he, she refers to gender, not sex. That person should not be obligated to now change their use of language that they've been brought up with and they've used just fine for years
What if you
to
didn't
accommodate
know?
this new language. What if you
Wait.
didn't know?
But what if you didn't
again-
know? What
again-
if what if this person walked in looking like really, really femme and wore a pretty dress and makeup and everything and long hair, and you didn't know anything about this person? You would probably use she/her pronouns, correct?
Okay, sure.
And
What does that have to do
then
with the point?
well, and then later you find out, oh, they were trans. Are you
Okay.
gonna suddenly switch your pronouns because you're like,
Good.
oh,
I'll be
that
fine.
means no, you're gonna suddenly switch your pronouns because you found out that at one point they had a penis.
That would be fine. So like if someone was brought up using the word he to refer to biological sex and not
Okay.
gender, has nothing to do with gender.
I got it.
But wait,
No,
let me
wait,
finish.
wait,
So-
wait.
I got
and
it again.
Let me finish.
Mhm.
And somebody else comes along and says, no, I use the word he and she to refer to gender, not sex. Is the person who was brought up using he, she to refer to only biological sex obligated to change their entire use of language, which is not in any way meant to be derogatory.
But
It's just the way they're brought up.
Hold on.
Are they obligated to change their language to accommodate this new person because they use the word in a different way? No, that's ridiculous. It's just dumb.
Okay, I need to ask for some internal consistency here, okay? So basically, my grandpa, he was born in the 20s, raised in the 40s or whatever. It was a completely different society when it came to using. Yep, it's coming. So when it came to using descriptive
Whoa.
language for different
Whoa.
races, okay? Hold on, I won't actually use the words. Everybody, chill the fuck out. So
Sure.
yes,
You
I won't
sure?
use the words.
I'm worried, Marine.
Shut the
Are you-
fuck up. It's all right.
I
so,
love you, bro.
So basically, when referring to Jewish
I
people,
can't even get a
black
love you
people,
back.
Hispanics,
Whoa.
Let's let him finish, please.
I do
I
love
just
you.
want to hear I
So-
love you.
so hold on.
Okay, I love you, CTV. There you go. Continue.
I love you too, CTV. All right. So basically, during the 40s, it was completely acceptable in order to use basically slurs against people of different races and all that kind of stuff. And it was completely socially acceptable in order to do so in certain social contexts. With it, by the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, especially today, it's no longer acceptable to do that. So would you be saying, like legalistically, I
No, because they're not analogous. It's a false analogy.
But
So
How?
No,
because
wait,
they're
Connor,
slurs.
don't worry.
They were-
You gave us
Sorry.
your
They was
He asked me a
slurs at
question.
one
Wait,
point.
he asked me a question. So let me
Okay,
answer
go
the
on.
question. They were known to be slurs at the time. They were using them as slurs. It wasn't just like another name for the person. They were
Okay,
literally
so-
slurs.
so-
Wait, let me finish. Let me finish.
Mhm.
He, she isn't a slur. It's not a slur. They're not using it as a slur. If they were brought up just using the word to mean biological sex, they were never ever using it as a slur. Whereas in your analogy, they were always using that as a slur. It was never just another name for it.
Okay, so I have a
Can I
better.
please jump in?
No, I have a better one. Okay, the R slur, R word, right? That was basically that was a medical term for a really long time. Basically, they used it when they were diagnosing children. But what ended up happening was it was misused. I don't want to say misused, but it was misused over generations and generations. And despite it being a medical term, basically people were using it in order to offend other people. And I virtually guarantee you in the 1960s, they were like, oh, well, I'm not using it to be mean. I'm just using
Well,
it
Florida,
in order
Maine,
to
I'll
medically
get
describe how
kicked.
stupid you are.
I have to wait my turn.
So would
They'll
you
kick me
not
again.
extend the same conception where after a while, when something is misused or used to the point to denigrate other people, that at some point it would no longer become acceptable?
Well, I'd say that is a perfect analogy. So if there was a person who was using the R word specifically in order to reference the medical condition, and then you were yelling at them for being an asshole, you would be in the wrong here. They would not be wrong if they were literally using the R word in a non-derogatory way as a medical term because they were brought up doing that. They have done nothing wrong, and they should not be charged. Now, obviously, if someone deliberately used the R word to be derogatory, yes, that would be bad. That part I'm totally fine with getting rid of the assholeness, but just the use of the R word isn't itself derogatory. And the same thing would apply to pronouns. If someone was brought up using the pronoun in a non-derogatory way, just as a classical use of language pronouns, he refers to biological sex, that way they're taught, they don't mean anything negative by this at all, they would not be wrong in any way to call someone a he who is a transition because they don't mean it in a derogatory way. The word itself isn't derogatory. And so it's the word itself should not be legislated.
But
Okay,
if
I
someone
agree.
is called-
I completely agree. The
Give it to
word
Loner
the word
and
is
Fawn.
not in itself. Yeah, the words are not in themselves slurs. That's a fundamental
Yeah.
that's how language works. Words become harmful depending on the context in which they're used. You actually gave us everything we need, T-Jump, because you actually conceded that if this hypothetical child who cries every time they're called a potato and the teacher continues to call them a potato, they're bullying that child. There's no point in doing it. The word potato is not a slur, but yet it is being punished in its context. This is a one-to-one comparison. If the child is crying every time they get misgendered and the teacher continues to misgender them, they are bullying. No? That's a one-to-one
If
ratio.
you're deliberately, again, false analogy here. Your leftists are so bad at making
That is
analogies.
not a false analogy.
If someone just keeps yelling he while the kid is crying, yeah, that's bullying, not because of the word. If the teacher accidentally says he or just says he,
We're not talking about
while past-
accident.
wait, stop interrupting. So if the teacher just says he because he's just a part of his language when referring to him because of habit, no, that should not be legislated. Even if the kid cries at that point, should be not legislated because that's just the way that the teacher was brought up with the word. Like, obviously, if you're just yelling at the kid he to make him cry, yes, that is bad. Just using
Thank
the
you.
word he
Thank you.
in normal language because of that's how
I
you were
agree.
brought up
I
never
agree.
should ever be
I
legislated.
agree. That's why earlier on, I think did I say that to you or maybe someone else? I said the legislation, which I agree with, accidental out of habit is fine. It's making the effort because the continuous misgendering is the bullying.
Let me ask
No?
you this question then, Lonerbox.
No,
Do
no, no,
you
wait.
think-
I want to answer that. I
I
want
need-
to answer that, please.
I need to ask you a
Well-
question right now. This
Uh,
is the most pertinent time to ask
well-
this question.
Well, first, I want to
need-
hear T-Jump's
it's-
answer. Then CTV, it'll get back to you, but that was a question directed at a
It's
certain
just-
individual.
it's a real
it was a
simple
question.
question, and then let the room go.
That's
My
why-
hand is
wait.
hurting.
Keep it in your
TV, wait.
mind. T-Jump.
So yeah, that's the part where I said we already have legislation that legislates against that. We already have that. We already have legislation that is guided towards preventing deliberate bullying of students. You don't need to add this new legislation. We
So what's
already
it's
have
a
that.
guideline that it's a guideline that just tells teachers that this is something that will help you to stop bullying. Like, don't deliberately misgender. That's it. That's fine. If it already exists, then why are you against it being added to something that already exists?
Because if it already exists without legislating pronouns, adding in legislation of pronouns for no reason, which pronouns
We haven't
themselves
added
aren't
in the
any
legislation
way-
of pronouns.
That's what we're talking about. So again, yes, we have. That is a thing that's occurred in many places. The problem here is the pronouns relevant? No. Is the bullying relevant? Yes. We shouldn't be bringing up the pronouns as being the relevant thing here. People are legitimately justified in using he to refer to biological sex if that's how they were brought up, and it's wrong to try to force them to change their use of language.
What if they
Because
were
you don't
brought
agree
up
with
with racism being
Dylan.
like very allowed in their household and like they said the N-word all the time and that's just
No,
what they were
yeah,
used
false
to?
analogy.
Is that okay? It's a completely
false?
apt analogy
Because-
because
because
guess what?
it's-
Because
it's
guess
what I
what?
said-
The
Wait,
only
wait,
thing,
wait,
the
wait.
only thing that
Zan-
makes the
Zan-
N-word worth
no,
than misgendering.
Zan.
All right,
Zan, you don't have a great history with this.
I'm sorry.
Breaking the
I'll
rules, huh?
I'm keeping the dogs on a
Breaking
leash.
it, yeah. Gonna throw it over to Fawn because that's who I promised I'd give it to. Then I'll hear CTV's short comment. But if it's short, that means he can say it in 10 seconds. So, Fawn.
Okay, you keep on saying, oh, people use, people have just been brought up to use, like, pronouns as their biological sex. You cannot tell always someone's biological sex just by looking at them. Gender is a social construct. It's what we use to socially interact with people, and that is based on the gender binary and masculine and feminine traits that we see in front of us
Oh,
when
you
we
guys can
first
hear
see
me,
a
right?
person.
Oh, wait, no,
you
you
don't
guys can
have to
still hear.
inspect
Okay.
people's genitals in order to know what pronouns to use for them or to assume what pronouns to use for them. So saying, oh, I just do it based on biological sex. Do you go up to someone and say, hey, what was your biological, what were you called at birth? What genitals do you have? You don't ask that. You just see what the person looks like. If they, if they have long hair, wear makeup, wear a pretty dress, you will probably be more inclined to use she, her without asking for their whole medical history. And to say that, if you found out what their genitalia is or was, then you're suddenly going to change that pronoun for this person. That is incredibly disingenuous because, again, it's a social thing. It's how we used to interact with people. You look at someone and you make an assumption based on what they look like, and that has nothing to do with biological sex. A lot of the time it does. A lot of the time they line up, and that's what cis people are. But you even said that, like, yeah, if someone is wearing makeup and has long hair and wears a pretty dress, you're probably going to use she, her.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant to the point. So the point is if the person uses the word he or she to refer to biological sex, that means they use the word to think, I think this person is this biological sex, as opposed to thinking, I think this person is this gender, then they're totally justified in using the word that way. So whether or not they actually get it right is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. But I did want to respond to Lonerbox.
Jesus fucking
Wait,
Christ.
give me 10 seconds. Give me 10
Yeah, let's give him
seconds. 10 seconds. So the difference is that if someone is brought up being taught that a derogatory term, knowing it's a derogatory term, and continuing to use it would be bad. If they never knew it was a derogatory term, like if their parents taught them the word just as without knowing it's derogatory, then they'd be completely justified in using it. But if they know it's a derogatory term and use it as a derogatory term and were brought up with it that way, that's the difference. He and she are not derogatory terms. People are not taught these are derogatory terms when they're being taught the words. There's no derogatory history to this term. They're completely justified in using it in everyday language without it being derogatory.
Okay.
That's a good
so
thing.
I'm
I feel
gonna
like
get-
we've-
help with that.
We've so disproven this so many times.
Okay. So I'm
Yeah, this
gonna
is
throw
back
it.
to square one again. We'd have to go all the way back to the.
Okay, so
Yeah, I
CDB
crushed you on
wanted-
all these points. It was really easy.
CDB wanted to
Thank
ask you quick questions. This is quick. I'm going to time it. He has 12 seconds.
So is it my understanding that the very left that wanted to free speech in the first topic wants to censor speech in this one? How fucking ironic.
This is
Like,
not censoring.
I don't
This
know-
is basic human
Shark?
respect.
Shark?
I don't know how many times we just
What
have to
do
say
you
like
call
we have.
censoring?
Wait,
Stop
wait.
stop speaking.
Control,
I don't know how
Shark?
many times
Wait,
that we
wait,
have to
wait.
say.
Okay, Shark.
Thank you. I don't know how many times we have to say that we have some standards with something. Just because you want to let everybody say anything, no matter what, at any point in time
You
for
wanna
whatever
control
reason.
it at the point
I
that
don't. I
No,
really.
no, no,
I
no,
just
no.
don't.
CDB,
I just do not care.
CDB. Please, this is my last one. You gotta, when people are responding to you, you gotta let them like say words, or it's not a conversation. Okay, Shark.
Sure. We have some standards when it comes to like how speech is used. This is everywhere you go, no matter what happens, no matter where you are. There are standards for how speech is used. Like I'm sorry if that bothers you so much, but I don't think we're going to get away from that. And I don't think any reasonable person wants to get away with that. Just because we have some standards for speech does not mean that we're inconsistent when we think that some speech is all right and some speech isn't all right. And I think honestly, T-Jump, I agree. I agree. You know what? We do have some laws that already touch on things like harassment and bullying. And you know what? If that's the case, then I'm perfectly fine adding some things to it. And I think that's amazing because we have those laws specifically for people like you who try to make excuses for people who would like to harass, who would like to bully, but would like to hide behind the notion of, oh, that's just what I do. Oh, this is just how I live. And we don't want them to walk around and be able to cause harm. So we stop them from doing that. I don't really care if you're like dumb fuck household where you grew up, thought that it was okay to scream fire in a crowded theater and then throw your shit at the nearest
my
person.
God.
If you do that in your nearest theater, you're going to be arrested for it. I don't
No,
care
you're
if you've
not.
not grown up with that. That's
You're
not
gonna get
going.
thrown out.
That's not going to. Yeah, you are going to get thrown out, and you should probably go to jail as well. That's not how
So
we
you
do
first
things
said you
here.
were going
We
to go to
are.
jail,
We
then
have to
back up
have
and say
some
you probably
standards when
should
it
go to
comes to
jail.
how
So then
we
just let me
talk
know
to
you know
each
what the
other.
fuck you're
We
talking
have to
about.
have
Okay,
some.
well,
We
let's
have
let
to
him
have some
finish.
standards. Where are you going, Dylan?
I'm just saying, let him finish.
We have to have some standards for how we interact with each other, especially in a crowded environment like a school. And I think that's a great thing to be able to say, hey, if you're constantly misgendering someone, even if you're grown up in a way that says that this is okay, if you're causing harm, you need to stop. And if you don't want to take any time out of yourself because you're too selfish to give a shit about hurting other people, then yeah, you'll get removed from that place.
Okay,
That's
so
just
now what we're gonna
intellectually
do?
facile. Like you
we're
don't
going
get to determine how I
wait,
use language.
T-
No,
I do.
no, you don't.
I'm a voter.
You do?
You don't.
Okay.
Law does. Thank
Next,
God.
oh, man, that was unfortunate for Loner. I was about to say next person to make noise is getting muted. Okay. So now we're gonna do outros. We're gonna do outros. I also muted him because he's from the UK. Everybody's gonna give
Based.
an outro where they should find their
Based.
channel and also on where they can and their last opinions. So we're gonna start with Nacho.
Yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/American Nacho. Also on Twitter. Everywhere else, I think I'm still the only American Nacho. So, I've been offline for a while, so I'm glad to be back again. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to doing some more of these now that I'm settled in my new work schedule.
Wonderful. We're gonna throw it over to Connor.
Yeah, so just wrapping up on this topic, if you're religious and you buy into the gender binary or whatever, that's okay. But if you're not religious, I don't think there's much reason to not get into he, him, they, them, she, her for people who request it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. The main thing that I have a problem with is the same thing that probably most right-wingers have a problem with, which is compelled speech. Basically, the state saying that if you don't use a certain kind of language, then you'll go to jail. Obviously, there's exemptions for stalking and harassing. so we could get into the nitty gritty a different day. If you want to follow me, my name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I'm a Marine veteran and a law enforcement veteran. I talk about like security issues, violence, popular media, science fiction, all that kind of stuff. I do a whole bunch of breakdowns, including Bo Burnham, weirdly enough. But there's lots of really cool stuff on the channel. Go check it out. Easiest way to do that is to go onto YouTube, type in Counterpoints, common spelling, or alternatively do _counterpoints_ on Twitter, where I basically meme and shitpost all the time. And then what I would say is, I know I was talking a lot of shit to CTV tonight. I love you. I love you. And I am very much looking forward to getting 70 more subscribers from Dylan's community tonight. And you and I scheduling a hot tub stream featuring dad bods in short shorts and or Speedos.
And you are making love to that mic. Now we're gonna throw it over to CTV.
As far as the last topic is concerned, I think that I've sat back and talked about the issue enough to where, for me, it's an 18 and above issue, and we don't need the government to be dictating to parents what's right for their children. I think the parents can decide that on their own. If their parent is in fact trans, then they can take the steps necessary to facilitate the growth of their child as well as they see fit, right? But that's no decision for any government to make, right? Those two people that are there sitting there raising that child is the ones that brought it to fruition, and it'd be damned if I'm going to let a government tell them what is right for them and theirs, right? So that being said, I am critically thinking veteran. I facilitate the Wolfpack. We are a pretty robust and diverse community of both righties
Not
and
playing any
lefties.
game right now. What are
Everybody
you
knows how I
talking
feel,
about?
But I argue things just like Counterpoints was saying earlier. Sometimes it depends on what the issue is. I steer real hard to the left, and sometimes I steer real hard to the right? So, but all of my takes tend to be centered around the Constitution and what it says, and I try my best to not only have facilitating conversations about education of the Constitution, but also
What are you looking at me
diving
for?
into it myself. So, like, these are the
I
types
am
of
actually
things,
playing
knowledge.
Hightail. True.
I served 9 years on Ohio-class submarines as a machine command auxiliaryman, and the number one thing that I learned during my service is that knowledge is power, right? And while I might not always be able to articulate the ideas as well as I would like to, right, I certainly do make an attempt to try, and I like to do so in a very calm and much more demure manner than what you have seen tonight. So I try to make these panels that my friends try to put on as entertaining as possible. So I hope to see you around chat sometime.
I'm gonna throw it around to Fawn.
Hi again. Thank you so much, Dylan, and everyone for having me on the panel. Like I said, I'm not a debater. I am very politically minded, though. I very much enjoy politics and talking about it. So I appreciate it. On Twitch, I am just Fawn. On Twitter and Instagram, fawnchild_. And yeah, I'm New Zealand representation and ego representation. So yeah, I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much, everyone. Love to everyone, despite our differences. I appreciate everyone being respectful.
Well, I'm simping.
Awesome.
I'm simping for
thank
sure.
you so much for coming on. Hopefully we can have you on again in the future.
Thank you.
We're
Yes, more femmes, please. Sorry.
100%. Throwing it over to Loner.
Yeah, I just really like it that at the end of that we just kind of conceded that there was nothing wrong with the guidelines themselves and that they kind of already exist, and then we just kind of retreated onto some conversation about imaginary laws against accidental misgendering. At least we don't have that in this country, so
because it's the end of the thing.
Yeah, that was really fucking funny. So my name's Lonerbox. I've got a YouTube channel, make videos, and you should watch them. Thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Shark.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Mr. Dylan Burns TV, if that is your real name. Yeah, my name is Shark3ozero. Once again, that's the word shark, the number 3, the letter O, and the word 0. We do political.
That's your real name.
No, stop. Shark.
It is my real name. It is, yes. I was born with it. It's my culture. So I I make the same sort of content that a lot of other people make. We do deep dives. We talk about political issues. We do political analysis. We do memes. We cream. We slap. We clap. And I have a video about the TikTok Twink Bone Lord coming out sometime soon. It's going to be really fun. If you ever saw that video about that guy on TikTok who has way too many bones and he just collects them and sells them, there's a deep dark history to that. And you know what? We're going to go into the bone zone, and I want you to join me. I really appreciate all of you guys for talking. J Pump, I disagree with you, but you know what? It's okay because I'm a voter, and that means I get to decide how your life goes because the U.S. Constitution says that we can decide some things about how people live their life, and I think that's epic and pog. And I can't wait until the gender RoboCops come and boop you on the nose for saying bad things to trans people because that's mean.
Throw it over to T Jump.
Yeah, so I mean, it's obvious that they just left side just doesn't know what they're talking about here. Respecting people's cultures and how your heritage and what you brought up with is important in all cultures, not just American cultures. And so if you were brought up using a word not as in any derogatory sense, you should have no obligation to adopt some other completely different culture who wants to mitigate your usage of language. There is no history.
I like
of
how he
word
thinks this couldn't apply to the N-word.
like, as a normal usage
love
of the
that.
word. So if you normally use the word to mean biological sex, you're completely legitimate in doing that, and there's nothing wrong with it. And anybody legislating against that is completely immoral. It's a violation of the First Amendment. So no one should ever, under any circumstances, be obligated to change their normal use of language, which has no derogatory connotations whatsoever, just because it makes other people feel good. It's just a violation of the First Amendment. And anybody who disagrees is just objectively wrong. This has nothing to do with catering to bigotry. Like, this is not bigotry. If you were just brought up using the word in a certain way, in a non-bigoted way, then you continuing to use it in a non-bigoted way is in no way catering to bigotry. The left just doesn't understand the issue and categorizes anything that disagrees with them as evil, as normal. It's the worst. It's just as bad arguments as religious make, which makes them just easily objectively wrong. We can identify the fallacies as we can with religion. So it's pretty easy. Just don't legislate people using words in a legitimate way that the words were intended to be used, that they were taught to use. It's that simple.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Zan.
Yeah, I don't know how anything he just said couldn't apply to any other slur, but I mean, he was pretty insistent about that earlier. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to say about that. My name is Xanderhal. I stream on Twitch and YouTube, and I upload left-wing political content. Sometimes we play games. If you're interested in it, I'm saving up right now for a VR headset so we can play that VR zombie game. So if you want to see that, come on over. But yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming on today. It was a blast. Please do support all the creators here. And again, if anybody wants to support the channel, you guys know how to do so. You all have a blessed day, and I'll see you all hopefully for another show in the future. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you, Dylan.
Bye.
See ya.
See you, man.
Have fun.
Bye.
Alrighty, bye, everybody.
See you guys. Counterpoints.
See ya.
Amazing. Okay, hold on. I gotta do something really quick. Properties. Deactivate. Properties. Here we go. Turn that off. Switch to Logitech Brio. Activate. There we go. Oh, I look fat. What the fuck? Oh, now I don't. Oh, yeah, and it's a little bit pink. I gotta adjust. There we go. Hey, everybody. Wow, that was fun. Sloucher. Yeah, I mean, yeah, a little bit slouchy. Maybe a little. Hold on, wait. Game capture. I'll just leave the game, actually. Yeah. Alright. Segment time? Hold on. I may have to wrap up stream to watch Breaking Bad with my mom, so we'll see. I think I might do one more segment, and then a little bit of the Breaking Bad. Anyway, well, if you enjoyed that, please leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell icon, follow me on Twitter, all that kind of shit. Really fun. Wait, what? Apparently, Dylan ended stream and cut off my outro. I just switched over to the chat, and it's looking like what happened was he like he said, "All right, your turn now," and then immediately ended stream because everyone in the chat's spamming Xanderhal. Xanderhal got shafted again or something. I don't know. Or maybe not. Apparently it's just some Nazi maybe like spamming my name. I don't know. I can't tell. Anyway, though, thank you all so much for watching today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell icon on my YouTube channel so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a video. Follow my social media. All the links are in the description. And of course, if you want to support me financially, you can donate, subscribe, or gift subs on my website. Xanderhal.com/live in YouTube chat and on Twitch. And on top of that, we are currently saving up for a VR headset. The first $200 I usually raise each day, and that's the cat stream goal. And then the extra 50 on top, or however much we get more, ideally around 50, I transfer over to a Cash App account where I save it. And once that hits 1,000, I'm going to transfer it over to my PayPal and buy that VR headset and that whole setup. So it's going to be pretty cool. We're saving up for it. It's going to be great. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.